From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure going live on the internet. I'm Ken Knapsack.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and I just tried and failed to explain to my mother what I meant by I need to go live on the internet.
Yes. Here we are in 2024, and I have to explain to house repair guy, I work from here. See these cameras? I work from here. I work from here.
Yeah, just think you're a home security guard.
Yeah. We are here live on a Friday, kind of earlier in the month, normal for us.
Mm-hmm.
Normally we're at the end of the month, Joseph, but we might be doing more this year, and we're going to look ahead to the end of the Acolyte. We're also going to be taking your calls from Patreon supporters and asking you what has been your favorite scene or moment so far in the show. But a Friday, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. These Fridays are always harrowing. We're always screeching in at the last minute. I realized that I forgot to pick up any any mixers for whiskey, and I didn't want to just have a giant tumbler of whiskey. So I'm drinking an orange wheat beer that is a year old. So I hope the force is with me.
Yeah, what's the ruling on that? I've got some party beers. I don't drink a lot of beer, and I got a party IPA from like one of my parties in 2023. Yay or nay?
Yeah, this is a long discussion in our household, and I'm sure it will be just full of people with very good, very wise opinions on it. Most people I talk to is like, does it taste okay? It's fine. Does it bubble when you open it? It's fine.
Oh, that's a key. I've heard that one before. Okay.
Yeah. I have attempted to drink some vintage beer, and sometimes the beer makes it quite clear of like, I'm not ready for this anymore.
I'll confess something on Friday, and maybe I've eaten enough, and I'm already drinking some rum and diets. But every once in a while, I like putting together little care packages together, put them in a bag, and if I see someone in my neighborhood that might be in need of something like that, I'll do that. And occasionally I've been like, well, I'm not going to drink these Modelo's. Should I just give them Modelo's? I'm like, I don't know where I stand on that or what I should be doing. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
I threw up here from Addie. Chemist here. Think you should be safe. Thank you. There's just a world of difference between a chemist telling me that should be just fine. And frankly, my old pal CK going, does it hurt when you drink it? It's fine. There's a big difference between that and hello, I'm a chemist. So thank you, Addie.
Hello, I'm a chemist. Is it me you're looking for? Sean Monk has a very important question, Joseph. And those checking in, hi, how you doing? We're ForceCenter as we set up top. Jennifer, probably not going to be with us today. There was a chance that Jennifer was going to swing by. We'll leave that door open, of course. But we have a very important question. Sean Monk asks, Ken, Joseph, my mother wants to know, is there AC in both those rooms? Yes, I can't use it.
Yeah, same here. Yes, an AC that works only okay and would be screaming like a TIE fighter over the entire stream.
I know yours is far away, but I could just get mine going here. It feels great, but it's working. It's too loud.
It's working. I don't know, but if you need, I love that it does seem to be conditioning exactly your buttocks. So if you need a little buttocks cooling, I'm fine with that.
I didn't do it today because I ran out of time. There's been times I've broadcast live here in ForceCenter with an ice pack in my pants. All right. Little trick of the broadcast trade.
That is great. Thank you for everybody for tuning in here to Beer Center today. Chemist Addy adds, honestly, tastes good is a good one. Well, I apologize to my old friend CK. But the bubbles still being there is the best. Means it's been airtight. I really feel good about this pivot that we've done to a science show.
The science of drinking. I think this is a great idea. A lot of questions to get to already. If you have a question, super chat us if you want. That helps us see the questions, helps us support the show, and all those good things. Helps you support us, support the show, I should say. But as always, we always say super chats are a blessing. They're an extra privilege we get to enjoy. So if you just want to ask a question here, we'll get to that as well. And calls coming in here in a little bit. I already see some calls lined up. So to those in the queue, we'll get to you in a bit. And Joseph, I'll give the radio rules. Call in. You're going to be telling us what's your favorite moment or scene in an Acolyte. We'll have a discussion. Make sure you are listening through your headphones, or if on your laptop, you're not getting that delay. We don't want to do the call or turn your radio down every time, which we were good last time. So.
Yes, we were. I love that. Yeah, you get to be not. It's not good cop and bad cop. It's radio cop and Guy.
Radio Cop and Guy. Was that a Channel 101 pilot that Andy Samberg put together with the go?
You and I will apply to Saturday Night Live in our upper ages with our sketch show, Radio Cop and Guy.
You and I still have some time. Leslie Jones, God bless her, who's amazing. I've been around her a lot.
Oh,
in
yes.
the comedy world. In her 50s when she got there. An inspiration indeed. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we're discussing here today, Joseph, I guess we should get into it, is the how the Acolyte went. Well, we're 7 episodes into this. I keep saying delicious show because there's just layer upon layer of things to discuss, break apart, wonder about, be wrong about, even sometimes question the characters about, and that's what I've loved more than anything about this show. And we're going to kind of look towards the end, make wild, silly predictions, I guess, and talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, in terms of like desires, I think I said this on the main show. Like, there are a lot of things that could go one way, could go another way, could be like hinted at or remain a mystery or teed up for next time. I did read another long interview with Leslie Headland, I believe, on the Nerdist this time that
I did
clarified maybe that certain things would be answered and certain things wouldn't. What I care about the most is that the 4 primary characters left standing of Osha, May, Soul, and Chimere get in the same space and truly hash it out. Not have a sit down. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe Vernestra gets there and everybody passes around the talking light whip and gets to talk through their feelings calmly. Wouldn't that be amazing if it like just totally ended with a respectful conversation? Like, well, anyway, my point being, I want those kind of emotional resolutions. I don't need, any. I do think that there's a possibility that Osha and May definitely continue on where Soul and Chimere both meet their end. Is a possibility to me. And my wildest thing, and this isn't even a prediction, this is just a totally like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if? I do feel like obviously Mother Coral, we haven't seen her corpse or her mist. I do think it's even possible that some amount of the witch's consciousness survived on in Kelnaka. Maybe even Mother Anastasia, probably not. But I do wonder if there's going to be some sort of late in life attempt to finish the Ascension. And if the Ascension, and I'm certainly not alone in this, but like if the Ascension was going to end up being like merge Osha and May back into one person, if there is going to be some some amount or force of the witches come back and finish what they started, so we get to kind of fully see what their intended destiny had been, and then they get to react in real time of, is this what we would have wanted, kind of thing.
One thing I like about that is the culture of the witches, that their community continuing or being reborn in some way through that. I don't know. I don't know if that's one of your angles on that there, but I kind of like that. Playing with the Osha and May thing, like I don't, Jen was on that early too with us having those great discussions about, one and the same. We were talking about the song, the poem, if you will. So all that kind of makes sense to me. And I'd love, keep them individuals now at this point, and I'm not saying they merge into one, some weird. But you don't know about that witch magic. You don't know about that virgin. So I could see something like that. I love your idea. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, please. You.
I was going to change gears. So if you have another follow-up thought, go on that. I was going to go back to something earlier said. So
yeah, you go for it.
I love your idea. It's you're joking, of course, a bit, but I love your idea of what I call the Michael Mann Heat idea of putting Pacino and De Niro together at a diner. I think Stranger, Soul, Osha May, locked in a room. Maybe Vernestra's at the door, like, no one go in here. No one go in here. Not the maybe action-filled ending that this show deserves, but I'd love to see them all discuss. It's one of those, like, all the truths come out and are on the table, and like, you did this, you scream and shout, and this, but maybe all coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not be surprised to see Soul fall on his laser sword, in an attempt to make things right, because he is racked by guilt. I do think that there has been a lot teased with Osha's connection to the Force, and I wonder if that
Mhm.
has something to do with the Ascension, something to do with some level of power that she can unlock, or level of power that Osha and May can unlock together. And I would be fine with that if she's a powerhouse in the Force. But it would also be cool if that had a little bit of a spin to it, of like her
Mhm.
power is unique in some way. Would also be interesting to me.
I love that. I want to go to a question out, Joseph, because I think it will help us here in our discussion, sharing our thoughts on the end here. Gary, fan, thanks for the super chat, by the way. Generous.
Yeah.
Hello, ForceCenter. Do you think we could end on a cliffhanger, even without season 2 confirmed? Not talking who shot JR level, but a cliffhanger nonetheless. I think it's important to make that clarification in our modern times, because you and I grew up with that cliffhanger hanging over us there. Yeah, where do you go with this? I know, yes, I read that Nerdist interview too. I kind of was like, I've been trying to avoid some of those interviews, whether if we cover them on the news show, I do look at them. But I was like, all right, I'm going to go into this one there. And she did kind of make it clear. Season 2 it sounds like it's on a board somewhere, but no one's pulled it off and given it the green light. But where do you start with that?
Yeah, I would be perfectly happy with it if it felt like this chapter in, say, Osha and May's life is resolved. Let's say, like, we had some great speculation. Pulling it up here from Addie. My wild, silly prediction is that Sol is going to be the fall guy for the Jedi for the massacre on Kofar in order to hide the stranger's existence from the Senate audit that's coming. Like if the Senate audit got resolved, if the truth came out about what happened on Brendock, if Chimere kind of got covered up, if Osha and May knew the full truth and kind of for now resolved their relationship, so the story, the hiding of what happened on Brendock was resolved in this season, and then there was sort of a looking forward to, but is Mother Coral alive? Or we thought Chimere was dead, but he's not. Or, but there's something even more. I just want this to feel like a complete meal. It's like, it's like if I go to a restaurant, I want a complete meal. And then if they're like, and here's a menu for dessert, and I'm like, ooh, I can't eat it, but I'll come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want to have a full meal and a tease for the next meal. I don't want a full on, this story is utterly unresolved cliffhanger myself.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. If we're just making predictions, Sol's survival is not high on my list of things that are going to happen. I think he'll pay some sort of price. But I like what Addie's talking about here of just, it's almost an administrative death. It's a give us your badge and gun kind of situation here, but that ties into the politics of it. But yeah, all that wrapping up, getting some answers on Osha, May, their very existence, their very birth, if you will, all that stuff going. But I like the idea of the stranger surviving, and I like that what could continue. Again, whether more Mother Coral, what'd you say, body or mist, MIA, that, and then how the stranger ties into the lineage of the Sith, if that's even, where I think he ends up there, but who knows? I know Knights of Ren are still in play. We're still hearing that theme. I get that, I acknowledge that. But you know what I mean? Where like that's part of the cliffhanger, or what could take us forward, is this little thing, like you said, is wrapped up. This big thing, but this Brendock stuff, the Osha May, the Coven, they go in a direction. Sol's may be off the board, but the Sith, as we know, continue. And how does that happen? And how do we end up moving forward? If they're going to do another season, the Sith could still poison the well in another way.
Yeah. One of my other big questions is, Sol had said that list of what needs to happen by the end of the season to May. Like, we got a lot to do. We got to track down your master. We got to save Osha and get this all resolved. I'm wondering where the kind of finale is gonna happen. Are Sol and May going to make it to the planet that is not Octo and probably Boldemic, or is everybody gonna go back to Brendock and that Vergence be a part of the finale? So to me, like the where is also kind of essential.
Brendock seems to be the spot for me, right? Like, and then that you could that mysterious planet, island base planet, Baldemic or whatever it is. I don't. If it's there, that's a fade out, fade in. The stranger goes back and Tenebris is there going, "Hey, how'd you do?" Like, I don't know, like that would everything okay? But Brendock just seems to be the center point of everything, and then the revelation of this virgins being kind of the planet itself. I like that detail that Leslie, and for those that didn't read the interview, I won't go too deep into some of the stuff she said that might be spoilers for what's coming. But the idea of the history of that being, it's John Carpenter's The Thing. There's a bunch of miners there. They're all dead now. The force was too strong. Something went down there. I think that planet has a good, dramatic, mythic final spot for me.
Old friend of the show, Jeannie from Tahini, coming in with a heartbreaker. I get the feeling OSHA will kill May, but as they are one person, ends up killing herself as well. Whew. Yeah, that's a rough one.
It's too early on a Friday to get that dark, but I love that. That's a great one.
Yeah, and people have joked that when I listed the 4 main surviving characters, I left out Basil. Fair enough. I think it will be revealed that Vernestra is a Sith and her apprentice is Basil, and it will end with them having a Sith dance because people are also making. Somebody kindly gave us $9.99 to make this excellent joke. Z Corp Alpha says Acolyte will end with a Bollywood India dancing.
You know what? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Let's do it.
But it's just it's just Basil and one other surviving character. Just Basil and Tenebris doing a big dance number together.
Look, if Acolyte season 2 it was Basil all along, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. We can do that. Great stuff already coming in there. You guys are doing wonderful as always. I'm going to favorite some. If you have something jumping out, go for it, sir. I'm going to gather my wits here.
Yeah. We talked about the cliffhanger one. Just want to grab this super chat from JC. Thank you very much for the act of bravery, going live on the internet with nuanced takes, deep thematic discussion, and POVs, and maybe even some snark. Appreciate you 3. Cheers. Drink the old IPA, Ken.
I'll do it.
Welcome to Science Center. Thank you very much, JC.
No, thank you. And we, little shop talking. We've been having a lot of fun getting some new folks in here, not just on our live shows, but in our discussions in the comments, even on our Patreon page. And I have to admit, if you grow in any kind of numbers, and it's been a humble growth over the last couple of weeks with the show, you don't know, that door's open for a lot of folks to walk in, and we've got a lot of wonderful folks finding us, enjoying or at least understanding what we try to do here with our discussions. And we've also had a wonderful rash of people going, I hate this show, but I like the way you talk about it. And you know what? That's a victory to me.
It was really funny. We had a little bit on YouTube of a little bit of a light side, dark side. I was really bracing for some dark side on the discussion of this episode. And yesterday, everything was, people either had nice thoughts, thoughtful thoughts where they agreed with us, or like, I like what you said, but I disagree with this take. Or like Ken said, a lot of people like, great talk on the hot garbage. Good job. And then today there were some just like, truly like, there is no understanding of the difference between in opinion and fact of all your opinions have to be wrong because the show is garbage, period. And you are dumb people wearing smart people masks. So it was a little bit, we went on a roller coaster with this one, from some light side responses, a lot of light side responses. And thank you to everyone who does those in a few dark side responses.
Yeah, a few there. I like this comment here from Zach Martin. There's still a big hole in Brendan that nobody's fallen in yet. And I got to tell you, I agree with that sentiment. That'd be a dramatic place to die. We've seen some, characters fall down, long shafts and chasms and all that stuff. But that's a great setting. That's what I'm saying. Saul goes down there. Maybe he's like, I got to figure out the virgins myself.
Maybe it is just like the Virgins is just some giant force trampoline, and he'll be, force shoved into that hole by Khmer, and then boop, pop right back up, triumphant. Yeah,
love it.
Good stuff.
Oh, and Zach, great question, and then follows up with a wonderful, generous.
Oh, thank you.
We appreciate
thank you,
that.
Zach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, somebody made a very funny comment of Basil Wood. Yeah, because maybe the ending, instead of Basil doing a dance, maybe it's Basil putting up railings around what I think is the Virgin's cauldron hole.
Mm-hmm. The Virgin's cauldron hole. There you go. Lord Roma says the virgins is the friends made along the way. Well done.
Concentrated force power of friendship.
Friendship. Fellowship. More predictions coming in. We got some calls lined up here. We can get to some of those shortly. I want to pull in our buddy Matty Gunner. Everybody dies other than Chimera and Vernestra, who shows up. He goes back to his old persona and be like Tim Robinson in the hot dog outfit. We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
That is very funny. But while we're on that, the internet was alive with discussion about Vernestra being possibly being a Sith and Chimera's master, and the fact that his wound looks like a whip wound. How are you feeling about that? About even the possibility of Vernestra being a dark sider of some kind?
I really don't think she's a dark sider. I do think that the whip, what people think are scars from a whip mark or a whip slash like that. That's interesting to me. It's tragic. It's really dark. But there's just something to me about. We always ask, hey, you got a wild theory? Let's hear it. What's some why behind it? Vernestra slipping from where we met her at 16 to 100 plus years later and secretly a Sith, it doesn't track for me. And it's almost too dark. And I'd rather have her kind of where she is, holding the line while also being cynical, a little broken down on just the politics of it all, as the Republic at this time starts coming a little harder for the Jedi Order. I love that hologram scene. I love when you really highlighted it on our discussion from that episode. That's more where I see her battle is versus in an 8th episode going, oh, also, number one, she was a Sith all along, or 2, there's this entire relationship between her and Chimera that we need to explore in 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it feels to me too complicated with the Sith lineage too, of like how if the Sith had a master that was all the way in the Jedi, infrastructure for that long, there's a little bit of like that's twistier to me than can a Sith like Chimera appears to be revealed and then hidden. It feels very complicated for a Sith to have fully infiltrated the Jedi for a long time, like Vernestra. I feel like a little bit for me, like the storytelling we've seen is like, I feel like we're meant to kind of think Vernestra is one of the Jedi who's bringing us on the path to the prequel Jedi of being rigid, afraid of what the Senate's going to think. And then we get to see this scene where she's a little bit more onto, there is a darkness coming. There is a problem. Something is tipping the scales. We shouldn't be cocky. There is a problem, and it's only going to get worse if we become too beholden to the Senate and we become too political, because we have to be free to follow our own instincts and ideas to deal with this great threat of the Sith. I feel like the show is going to kind of pivot to like, almost like it did with Indara, of like, we were kind of painting her in a mostly negative light, but now we see a little bit more where she's coming from and might be a little bit more on her side than we were. I kind of feel like that's where the story with Vernestra is going, of like, she's going to be the one, like, if people had listened to her, maybe the Jedi wouldn't have been as cocky by the time we get to the prequels, as cocky and rigid and in lockstep with the Senate.
Yeah, I agree with that there. And again, we're there's a lot of moving pieces that need to be, answered or dealt with in the final episode, and tossing a brand new one in there, especially when you didn't know there's season 2, just maybe some logistics in that for me. But Mike says this, I think it's a Force lightning scar. That was where I went right from the start. But I love here, especially when you log online, you're like, ooh, okay, that's great. Oh, look, Molly Damon's got a wild theory. I like this theory. I want to hear it out. I'm okay with all that. And so Vernestra being the one for the injury, Vernestra being a Sith, like, I'll follow that out. But I jumped to that conclusion myself right away. Like, oh, well, that looks like a Sith master did something bad to his people.
Yeah, I also feel like the show has been, playing with the audience explicitly on purpose since in lots of episodes, but certainly since episode 3, where it was just a very specific Rashomon. We're not showing you the whole story. We're showing you a perspective. I think it could be playing with us in that way, of that one episode with Vernestra's light whip and the whip-like scar makes us go, ooh. But for the people who read the High Republic, the reason that she was not sure about having the whip is it was often associated with Darksiders. So it could also be like, yeah, it was a light whip that scarred Chimera. The Sith Master scarred Chimere, and we're all blaming Vernestra because we saw a whip in the same episode, but
Yeah.
there's a history there.
Love it. We'll get to some calls here shortly. Cameron Stewart, who I met this past weekend in Seattle. Thanks for coming out to the show with Mark and I. Here's my whole theory to tie it all together. The whole Braddock is to the world between worlds. Vern will fall in there, and she gets sent to the future where she is Snoke. Sold. I buy that theory. Ding, ding, ding.
She's bald right now in this part of the timeline, and she can bump her head on the way down. I will say with Chimera, I think that really underlined line of I was a Jedi. Yeah, it was a long time ago. I do want that resolved, or at least, if not, put on the table of that's for the second season. I do still wonder about. I think it's pretty wild. I don't think it's going to come true, but I do think it would be really interesting if he were a shapeshifter, like a Claudite or a different species we haven't met. That's a shapeshifter. Because I just think there's something so fun about, and maybe the scar's true, maybe even the scar's a lie, but even putting the scar aside, there's so much about don't let your eyes deceive you, and he's coded so differently than other Sith by being like, but he's a sensitive, beautiful, hot bad boy with big, brooding, beautiful eyes and vulnerable nudity, and like to change all that to, and I was lying about all of it, about my appearance and therefore my identity, and playing mind games with you about, aren't you shallow to have judged me by my appearance, and you couldn't be bothered to see the person I really am, which is a 500-year-old Claudite or whatever. I don't know how long Claudites live.
I love that idea. I also love thinking of him as a freewheeling bather who would have been at home at Woodstock '69, just freewheeling out there. But the stuff going back to early on, don't let your eyes deceive you. Don't judge a book by a cover. Wait for all the perspectives on a show. This show has been dealing with that and the duality of it all, and our own perceptions. That's been the big mystery to me. I know this show got sold as a told to us in the marketing and even by cast and creators, a murder mystery. And certainly that was at play, but we knew right away who was doing the murders. We just needed to know more about that person, obviously with May. But I think what you're talking about is more intriguing mystery to me. 500-year-old Westerosi witch, Melisandre coming to Game of Thrones.
I guess I only don't like it because it might. If they do that, I hope it's still Manny Jacinto, but just in some like heavy makeup, so we can still get that. Big Lou's Clubhouse says Claudite sounds like a candy bar. Real quick, the other thing, since I've been on about how cool I think this would be, we've used the phrase, and we have T-shirts sometimes that speculate responsibly, and some people who I think maybe aren't even that. I don't know. Some people push back on some episodes where we had some big speculation, and I think. For me, when we say responsible speculation, it means don't get too tied to needing your guess to be correct. I like shows that act like that cause us all to go, here's a totally wild theory. He is Darth Plagueis, right? Vernestra's Darth Plagueis in a weird skin suit, right? I love the wild theories. Wild theories are fun to me. The only problem I have with them is I swear to everyone watching in the entire internet, and my mother, who will never watch this because she can't get on the internet, if Chimera is not a shapeshifter, I will not be even remotely upset. It's fun to think about, and I only want it to happen if it made sense to the show and to the writers and the story they want to tell. That's what we mean by responsible speculation for anybody who is newer to us.
No, absolutely. And that speculate responsibly has thankfully, unfortunately, gone beyond our walls. A lot of our friends reference it in terms of us. But yeah, that was post Last Jedi, because I love the idea of a green lightsaber running down a hill, striking everyone down. A lot of thoughts about that, and it went a different way.
Gas Nottingham says responsibly wild speculation, and I will own that. I've been getting out of control with Acolytes. I'm having fun with some. Like, I really don't think this is going to happen. This is not a good prediction, but what if? This show is just firing my imagination because it's got so many little mini mysteries and connections, And
Yeah, let's see. You want to take a call? We got some calls lined up.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I think that the first I saw in today was Erica. We got an Erica. I'm going to add you to the stage. You are on ForceCenter Live. How are you doing today? What's your favorite scene or moment? Erica, are you there? Boca Raton. Boca Raton, you're on. Albuquerque.
Is there? She might be muted.
She's got herself muted. So Erica, if you've muted yourself, unmute and bring it in. But you know what, Erica, I'll let you get back on here. Don't worry, you're still in there. But we do have a returning caller. He last time out made us really think hard about TIE fighters and TIE pilots. Please welcome back to the show, Jared, the TIE pilot. How you doing, Jared?
Not too bad. How you guys doing today?
We're
Good.
Great.
Awesome. So my favorite scene so far of the show has been the first cave scene between Chimera and Osha when he's like fixing the helmet. And what sold it for me is the one word, semantics. As far as I know, and I like to think, trivia contests, I couldn't answer most of them. That's the first time we've heard somebody tempting somebody to the dark side without just flat out going, join the dark side. We have cookies. The dark side is cooler. Just using the words like, no, screw the light side. Come to the dark side. And just the idea that he's like, semantics. Use your feelings. All of them. And I'm just like, ooh, I like that.
I'm with you on that. And there was some supplemental information or thoughts from Leslie Headland on some of the stuff going on between them and the idea of him telling the truth. And I think it's a great sales pitch of why deny all those emotions. They're making you deny all those emotions. Now, I would argue that the Jedi maybe aren't, or they're having you process it in a different way, but it certainly can feel that way sometimes, especially when you're angry, especially when you're Osha figuring out what the hell happened. Was I lied to? Also, I'm out of the order. I carry all the emotions of that I got to process. And what a sales pitch. Not more power. That's what it is. But, you're being held back. Dig in.
There was an element of the scene of join the dark side. We're making a stew for dinner.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. The only thing that I think is even remotely close to it, and I think it's totally up for interpretation, I think it is also it's a much softer, more intimate version of what Palpatine pulls on Anakin in the opera box. The beginning of the argument being, no, the Jedi and the Sith aren't that different. They're similar in almost every respect. So he starts soft, and then when Anakin pushes back a little bit, like, no, the Jedi, are selfless, and he's like, no, everybody who gets power fears to lose it. I think that's even when he's got his great, and I can't, where he doesn't even need to make an argument. He's just like, from the tone of my voice that you're being really naive. I just think it's the sort of like both the both sides of the same argument is the beginning of something. And Chimera is making a slightly different argument of they're not the same. The Jedi are worse because they won't let you feel this, and we're awesome.
Oh yeah, totally agree. It's good stuff.
Yeah, great scene.
Jared, thanks for calling in. I'll give you one wild prediction. What do you got? What's your wildest prediction?
He is the new Darth Tenebris, and all the Legend fans are gonna pop their heads off.
Diabolical, and I love it. I actually kind of hope that happens.
All right, you guys be safe.
Thanks,
you
Jared.
too. Enjoy your time piloting.
I don't mean to be, malicious here, Justin. I don't mean to tap in the dark side, but there'd be something I'd like about that. And I like Tenebris. I read the Plagueis novel. I pull him into canon in a major way, and I know there's been references to him, but we don't know if he's a Sith Bith. A Sith Bith, I'm telling you, would be hard to pull off.
Yeah, uplighting. That's all you need. I uplight is if he has that kind of like built up little bit of a armor that he has in the illustrations. If you work some uplighting in there, all those weird Bith folds, you can make a spooky ass Sith Bith as far as I'm concerned.
I'd be up for trying. You know Favreau would be up for trying, right? Because we've got a lot of like, hey, but it sometimes works really well for me. Sometimes the other shows, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe an animation or in the background, Return of the Jedi was better. But I'd be curious. But I don't know. You got Chimera, maybe you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a whole thing going on. That's pretty scary looking as I'm looking at him on the internet. Yeah, I think they could pull it off. And you know what? If they tried and they couldn't, I think that would be okay too, because there's always the tension between Star Wars, between the super creepy, scary dark side and the, hey, we are dealing with weird, silly aliens, so let's have fun with both.
Yep. Indeed. All right, we got some start questions. Where you want to go, Erica? If you're listening, unmute and we can get you on air. We'll get you in there.
Sergeant Fubar coming in here. Wildest theory: Fingered and Dan was tenebrous all along.
I like that.
And has a song about it.
And perfect name for last week's episode. That's what I described the whole situation. Fubard. So Sergeant Fubard, there you are, indeed. I love that there. Our friend Ken Plume says, which beers would the Jedi Council drink? Which beer? Oh, man. I don't know.
With some... I'm mostly just Ken looks like he's been having a few typos in here.
Which beers would the Jedi Council drinks? He's probably driving.
Also, happy birthday
happy
this week to Ken Plume. Ken had a birthday earlier this week, and it got some very, very tasty action figures, I think.
He did. No, he absolutely did. Absolutely did. Yeah, I don't know. I have to. Depends on who the council is on the time.
I think it would. Yeah.
Kiadi Mundi just drinks a plain ginger ale.
Right. I think Quinlan Voss wants like the just sharpest, pokiest IPA he can possibly get his hands on. I think he wants an experience. I think Kiadi Mundi. I think he drinks flat 3-year-old PBR. That he shouldn't.
I think Mace Windu just finds the bitterest beer he can slug down.
He somehow drinks it by staring at it. He just stares at the bottle and it disappears.
Yeah. PLD called me out, says, you say like there's something wrong with ginger ale. No, I got a lot of friends that just take a ginger ale. I'm just saying it for Kiadi Mundi, just simple, direct, tasteless. He's there. He's not tasteless, but he likes a tasteless drink.
Well, where do you want to go next? Again, a question or
let me try to get Erica back on here. We'll try again with Erica. Erica, if you're on, let me know. But you got to unmute. You were the first in, so I want to give you that chance to get in early. Erica, are you there? Tallahassee, you're on. All right. How about Addie? Addie's ready to go. She's here. We had a great question from Addie this past week about, was it this week? Time flies. This week or last week with Padme and the potential scandal around some stuff with her and Anakin. Addie, how you doing?
I'm good. I have no Padme thoughts tonight, though, because, well, I always have Padme thoughts, but she's not on the Acolyte, so they're irrelevant.
Yet.
We'll see how far the Acolyte stretches. Maybe by season 8, we'll have a young Padme in politics school going on there.
Yeah, when Soul falls through the world between worlds.
Yeah. Addie, do you have a favorite scene, moment? What do you want to talk about?
I've been thinking about this all day, and first I was going to say all the Osha and Chimera stuff, but the thing that has stuck with me the most, I think, is that very small contained scene with Vernestra getting the heads up that the Senate is coming after the Jedi, because I want to know where that's going and how it ends.
Do you have...
Because
Go ahead.
I feel like it has a lot... Like, I feel like it is setting up what happens in the prequels and the eventual downfall of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Do you have a hope or a prediction about how much that story is going to be resolved? Do you think there'll be any like a kind of a quick resolution of it, that the Brendock story coming out affects that?
I think I'm hoping that it is a large part of the final episode, because honestly, that and the Osha and Chimera stuff in episode 6 is what I wish this show had been more of, for me, at least. but I do think it's going to tie into Brendock because, like I said earlier in chat, I think it's all going to be tied together. Of they have to hide this from the Senate to keep the Jedi's good reputation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it could be as simple as it feels like Soul wants the truth to come out. Like I think the theory of framing Soul is great, but I don't think Soul would stand for that because I think he's at this point of like, I need people to know the truth. So maybe, you know, in whatever way Soul communicates the truth. And I feel like the sort of tragedy of that, meaning that the senator gets in there, that could be told very quickly, right? You could that could be almost shown in a montage of the consequences of, you see the senator marching into the Jedi Council with everybody's heads hanging down, and you just know here's the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that scene. I think it's very important. I think it ties more than anything, you know, going forward. It ties to the fall of the Jedi just by how close they are associated with the Republic. Now we look at it later on in terms of they become generals in an army and they start sacrificing their morality, so to speak, on a small scale. But this is definitely the start of it. And I used in our episode the real world example of a consent decree. I hate to make a complete one-on-one example of that, but that is because I think sometimes it's a good thing to put certain law enforcement agencies under a consent decree with the city because it's like we need to find out what you're doing because what you're doing hasn't been right. So but that struck a similar chord to me, where then the Jedi would kind of huddle around themselves and say, we can't do this, we can't, and then one lie begets another, one action, and you start sliding, right? It's that Palpatine thing of, if I know you lie on a chart, I know you're probably going to lie some other point too, and I'd like to track that. So the Jedi, I think, start slipping because of that, and I don't think you're going to see next week a full, hearing where Vernestra's in front of. I think that might be not to the style of the show at this point, but I think that happens at some point, and they need to hide all this.
Yeah, I had a wild prediction, or not prediction, a wild, like, it would be great to see Vernestra in the Senate and fall it. I want those scenes. I don't feel like there's enough room in the show for one episode to get a lot of those Senate scenes. But I'm with you, Addie. I really like this part of the show, and I would have been happy to have even more political ramifications. I think it's so powerful that Senator Raincourt isn't actually concerned about the Jedi, just trying to score points. An ambitious senator who is looking for dirt anywhere, and this would make the space CNN headlines if he found some dirt at the Jedi Temple. Is so telling that it isn't about something important and real, like about agreement about oversight. It is entirely politically motivated for one person's greed and ego.
Yeah, absolutely on that there. Addie, thanks for calling in. Thanks for carrying that Padme flame around here with the ForceCenter audience. We respect and appreciate that.
Always, she's my girl.
Always and forever. All right, Addie, thanks for calling in. We'll hear from Addie, I'm sure, again. Great stuff. We're having a lot of fun looking towards the end of the Acolyte, wild speculations, but also looking back with some of your favorite scenes and moments there. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. How's your beard doing, sir?
I'm doing a pretty good job nursing it.
Same, except for rum on my end. Any questions jumping at you? Yeah, I got catching up here.
I want to grab a couple of these kind super chats that came in from hey, Kindly Kyle, who says, long time listener, first time chat. Thanks for all of your great discussions. Thank you, Kindly Ken. I'm so used to saying Kindly Kyle. So many cans. And then this one from Marco. I think you and I should both answer this, Ken. Yeah. I'm afraid this is the first Star Wars live action that I haven't enjoyed. I'm interested to know if the show lived up to Joseph's hopes. I assume Marco is responding to something I said that I really don't remember. But I think we've both been very excited about this when we were lucky to see the trailer early at Star Wars Celebration in London last year. We were both extra jazzed. We've both been really excited about every interview Leslie Headland gave. I think I remember talking about one during the height of the lockdown portion of the pandemic, getting really excited about it. So Ken, for you, has the show lived up to your hopes?
It has in a lot of ways. It's lived up to it. I just got a text from a friend who's a lifelong Star Wars fan, but because of life, had a new baby, and a new job, moving to a new city. He's like, he's not in these circles. And he just texted me today. He goes, "Hey, Acolyte any good? Because I think I'm about to watch it." And my answer was, yeah. It's great because of what the conversations it's creating. And that's what I felt the show would do, just based on some of the early descriptions of it from Leslie Headland and her team, or Disney or Lucasfilm, whatever you want. And the Sith perspective and how this connects to the Fall of the Jedi and analyzing all that. And I think each week, even when some of the episodes, I'm like, okay, I have some questions about some things, or some moments I don't love, some decisions I'm not sure about. I can't wait to discuss it. I can't wait to roll up my sleeves and get into the real world examples that the show is touching upon, and also the Star Wars of it all. I absolutely think this is doing the heavy lifting for this weird period of time of how do we get from here to the Phantom Menace and the Jedi Order that we meet there. So I love that. I think I've been honest week to week. There's a certain style in the streaming world in terms of structure, writing demands that we don't even know about, because we don't know the mediums. We don't know the notes coming from the studio heads. And I'm not talking about Lucasfilm, I'm talking about Disney. And there's some stylistic choices that seem to be more of a house style versus individual director, actor, or writer choices that I'm like, at this point, since Mandalorian 2019, I'm like, I'd like to see some things different here and there. And coming out of London on a big screen, I thought the show was going to have a different feel. I don't even know how to describe it. The trailer was great. It was on a giant screen, color correct. Everything was beautiful. And I thought it was going to be slightly more cinematic, where this has felt like some of the stuff we've gotten and in terms of Star Wars TV or even Marvel TV. And that's not, people will take that as a negative. It's just what it is. And I think I had a different feel coming out of it. And that's sometimes where I'm trying to be honest about each week. I'm like, okay, but I roll up my sleeves every week and go, let's talk about the morality of it all, and let's talk about the tragedy of it all. And that has lived up to my expectations and then some.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me, it has largely lived up to my expectations, because I wanted new characters in a new time period, and my favorite parts of Star Wars are Jedi and the mysteries of the Force and the philosophy around using the Force. So for the most part, it is, lightsabers and philosophy. I got that. And in that, there's also been some just phenomenal characters and phenomenal moments for me. I love the performance. I love the character of Soul. I think Chimera is fascinating, a new twist on the Sith, how or Darksiders, or whatever he ends up being. I'm with Ken that like a huge part of it, a huge part of the fun of it is that it's given us so many different things to discuss every week and to hear different takes and perspectives and all that. I think the few things that are not firing all cylinders for me, I mentioned this one time, I just find with reckoning with the Jedi's power, and there's a discussion going on in chat right now about oversight of organizations that use power, all that. It's a little, some of the Jedi as cops is a little on the nose for me, just with them.
Yeah.
Some of the language they use is just, and I felt that way sitting in the theater in 2002 when Anakin said, "Jedi business, go back to your drinks." I was like, okay, I like them a little bit more as mystical warriors, where we can absolutely draw some comparisons to real life, forces. The one-to-one with cop language, and it has been a little too much for me. Utterly subjective, tone dial thing. The other thing is about, the structure of these shows that aren't quite a movie, aren't quite a television show. They're a limited series event for streaming that I think decisions are being made, not just creatively, but with budget, with we need this many number of episodes. We can only afford this many numbers of screen time and all those kind of things. I've enjoyed the discussions and the speculations in between episodes, but I think I'll enjoy sitting down and watching this as a binge a lot.
Yeah. And I maybe once we the show's wrapped here and I'm talking about the Acolyte, we can come back and do some zero in on big things like the Jedi as cop thing is something I get. It's probably part of it. I think it's so on the nose that it creates a misreading of their story as an order. That makes sense. And yes, going back to it, you're not wrong. It's Attack of the Clones. That's literally how it reads, right? Everyone get back. We got the yellow tape up. I only say that because I've seen some friends and people I love who are just kind of like, see, I told you they were always the a-holes who were busting you for speeding, and I'm like, I don't think that's what's even at play in the show, but there's some stuff that naturally just feels that way, and that's probably part of it, and maybe that's part of the slide into generals and an army, so we can analyze that. Love talking about it, but I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I guess for myself, to Star Wars counsel myself live on the internet, it is mostly Yord and Jecki that we're hearing some of that very rigid language from. And Yord was definitely like, he was a person who was clinging to rules to feel safe and to feel like he couldn't make mistakes. And Jecki kept kind of being like, I think I believe in that dogma, but I'm also a much more flowing and creative and intuitive person than that. But I kind of keep leaning toward it, you know. So, hey, I just Star Wars counseled myself a little bit for that, but still not my favorite.
Yeah. No, absolutely there. No, and it's been fun week to week, and looking forward to Skeleton Crew and something different, but that's a story for another time. But yeah, fair question, and I love answering that here with Marco. I love kind of diving into it and being honest about it. And it's just been the ForceCenter way for 10 years now of let's focus on what we love and focus on what these stories are saying and see how we can connect to it.
Yeah. Can I throw out one other thing, Ken, quickly? Because we should obviously go on to other stuff, too.
I mean, yeah, you co-founded this, and you can do whatever the hell you want.
I'm just making sure that the, 1/4 of a beer, I'm not running out of control. I've been saying this on a couple episodes. I think it's so important to me that art is a conversation, and we bring different things to it depending on the mood, depending on our age. You know, I've seen a movie in a theater with friends and thought it was the best movie ever, and then I watch it 7 years later at home alone one night with a burrito. I'm like, it's fine.
Right.
It changes. We bring so much to the art, and I think one thing with the Acolyte is I love how complex it is. There's also a part of me like, man, would I love to see just like Han Solo, whizzing around and having some adventures. Star Wars always has some heart. It always has some depth. It always has some complexity. It always has some layers. What I love about Acolyte is it's so complex, but it's hard. It's challenging. It's heartbreaking. And with everything else going on in my own personal life, everything else going on in the world, there's also like a part of me is like, I hope the next show is some people having some adventures and they stumble a little bit. And then at the end, they're unambiguous heroes, because I could use that in my life a little bit. So I have some moments sometimes like, Acolyte's great. Can I come back to you in, a couple months when my life is under control? It's not a criticism of the show. It's a realization that we bring a lot to the art.
I think it's an excellent point, and part of what we, when I try to describe ForceCenter to people who don't know us, it's like we dive in deep to the themes, but it's like we're really engaging with the art. And there's days, and I think sometimes even people can feel it on our weekly breakdowns or any other show we've done where like I'm in a bad mood, or there's just something I don't like, or there's something one of my cousins said about Star Wars that's got me up in arms, and this episode makes me think about it. And I think I'm looking forward to Skeleton Crew right now because post November-ish, early November, I just might need some kids finding an adventure and finding and discovering hope. And this show has done a great job. I'm with you. Sometimes I'd love just a rapscallion scoundrel making his way in the galaxy.
8984M says, isn't that show just as describing The Mandalorian? Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I also think like the Mandalorian does still have a little bit of like there's a reserved energy to it because that's who Din is. I want a loudmouth. I want a braggart jumping off things, doing things they shouldn't. I want a Solo. I want a Poe Dameron. I want even, some moments of Obi-Wan and Anakin in the prequels. I want Obi-Wan going, I told you this isn't about, it's not our mandate to investigate this, but now that a robot's here, I'm going to jump through the window. I want some of that, just like Han Solo flying into an asteroid field and saying, never tell me the odds. I want some of that bravado in character. I have been missing that element of Star Wars because we've had a lot of characters who are either very reserved and minimal or really, really hurting and going through trauma. And I want a loudmouth doing weird things.
Love it there. All right. We have so many calls queued up here. I don't even know what to do with myself.
Sorry.
No, this has been fun here. All right. We're gonna go again, Erica. I'm gonna send him. I'm not gonna bring you up, Erica. If I see that microphone go unmuted, you're on. You're on the show. You're on the show. Ethan, call it in though. Ethan revealed earlier in chat, Joseph. I don't know if you saw it, that he is a AC repair tech, and he is just swarming and drowning in business right now. Ethan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
You're a hero to many right now. I hope you know that.
I try.
Oh, love it. Well, what is your favorite moment or scene in The Acolyte? We'd love to hear it.
You know what? Since you guys posted the question earlier, I've been thinking about it, and I hope this doesn't sound too morbid, but Jackie's death really stands out to me. Like when I read the question, that's the first image that popped in my head. I think it's just because it was so shocking. I just, really just the kind of stream of consciousness that I had watching it,
Right. Yeah, no,
he was. Oh, go ahead.
No, I understand what you mean. It was one of my favorite moments. It stands out to me because of they did that type of vibes. I really don't think shocking for shocking sake, but it was shocking, and it made sense for me what was going on, and it was tragic because it was a great character I wanted more from. So I'm with you.
Exactly.
So you said you went on kind of like an inner monologue journey of thoughts as it was playing out that Jackie met her end. Where did your thoughts go?
Well, it kind of started, kind of going into that scene, Jackie was kicking some butt. She was really, holding her own against this guy that just killed a bunch of adult grown Jedi with seemingly no issue.
Yeah.
And so, she was really killing it. And then, she kind of goes off on her own without Soul with her. I was like, oh, this is not great. And then he pulls out that second blade. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, she's 3-hole punched.
Yeah.
Like, it just, it was, and then, just that just kind of transitioning into the reveal of, oh, we were all right. But now I don't like how it was shown to me that it was right, that I was right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in Jackie's death that is powerful. I think, my wife said it really well, that she was so worried for Jackie when she was fighting May that she's like, okay, Jackie made it. So stopped worrying for a moment.
Definitely that too.
Yeah, and then Jackie's fighting smart, right? To get rid of the helmet, get rid of that cortosis. She's fighting smart, and then she just presses the advantage without Soul to back her up just a little bit too much. And then I think the way it was constructed, I don't want to say executed because I keep slipping into the way it was executed, that Jackie was executed with the lightsaber kill we haven't seen before with the 3-hole punch. It was awful and visceral. And yeah, since we were all ahead of the show, and according to Leslie Headland, like I knew everybody's gonna think it was Chimere. I think it was such a smart way to be like, we're in the pain and the shock of Jackie's death, and so we're just seeing it more through the character's eyes of who just killed Jackie. It was really a good way to reveal Chimere.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Brutal.
I really agree. It was really well constructed.
Good stuff. Ethan, thank you for the call. Thank you for sharing your moments. And, thanks you for keeping people cool all around the world. Okay.
Well, thank you guys. I do a lot of driving through the day, and ForceCenter Day is always one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you so much,
Something
Ethan.
to listen to in the van. So thank you guys.
Hey, we are good, if not for anything, but we're good for a lot of things, but listening in a van, I love that there. All right, Ethan, thank you. Breaking news, Joseph. Breaking news. Erica is unmuted. I'm so excited to welcome our first caller of the day onto the show. Erica, you're here. You made it.
I am. I made it. Hi, Ken. Hi, Joseph.
Hello, Erica.
And a new puppy. I don't know what to say. But
yeah.
I am just super intrigued with everything Chimere. And like I have a tendency to like, and I'm doing air quotes, the villain, right? But I love how this show really explores a certain point of view for
Mm,
every character. No one is all good or bad. So
mm, mm,
I would really love to see more of Chimera. I need his backstory. Like I need a whole season two. I wouldn't even mind if Chimera and Osha like had some type of something.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
Like something going forward. You talk about, Erica?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah, no, we've been speculating a lot about who will make it out of this final episode, and that's a pairing that it would be really interesting if May doesn't
Mm,
make it, which would be sad, or May goes
yeah.
off on her
Mm,
own, and it's really the second season story is Chimere and Osha
Mm-hmm.
together.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And
Yeah. Mm.
I feel what you're saying, Erica, about Chimera, and we know it's almost a trope of every villain is a hero in his own story. And that's how you make a good villain. It's a perspective and everything. But this show's really drilled in on it in a very specific way. And in a lot of the people I've talked to off air, it's like it's not just that simply he's making good points. There's just a real understanding, but also desire to see a little bit more. And I don't even know if one episode left is going to be enough to explore his character. That's why I think I'm hoping he goes on and we can figure out a little bit more with his story. Where would you, other than a budding, we'll just say partnership or even romantic relationship with Osha, where else would you want him to go? Where do you want him to end up?
I don't know. I've heard so many theories thrown out, but I would love if there was a connection to Kylo Ren in some
Mm.
way.
I mean, look, thematically, I know there might probably a connection, but that music cue that keeps just popping up and saying hello is pretty interesting.
Right, right.
Yeah. How would you feel if he were the founder of the Knights of Ren? Would that be a Kylo connection that would make you happy?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
for me, like I love what you're saying about like even I love to love the villains. I don't think we ever really see Palpatine's good side, but I assume he had one when he was a kid and something bad happened, and I love to know what the villains what happened to them. I would love to
Mm-hmm.
know a little bit. Chimera has been so focused on I feel abandoned. I was abandoned by a Jedi, maybe abandoned by a Sith. I hope we really get to hear a little bit more about, even if I don't agree with the actions that he's taking, of what happened to him to lead him on this path.
Mm,
Right, right.
mm.
What's the core motivation? Same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to put you on the
yeah.
spot, Erica, before we let you go, because you were here first today. You were here first today. You got a new puppy. What is like one thing that Chimera has said that you're like, you know what? I think he's right, and I'm following him. I'm Team Q to the end.
When he said, "Why do you keep?" How did it go? Wanting to be close to people that
Mm.
Mm,
won't let you,
mm,
feel or be all of you. I'm paraphrasing,
sure.
but that struck a chord.
Mm,
Hmm. Yeah,
mm,
no, I think what I love about him is like everything he says is you got a good point, and also it's like, and everything you say is also diverting from us from talking about the awful things you're doing. It's
Right.
a great tactic, but it is really like I think who doesn't relate to that? You keep coming into relationships where they're one sided, where nobody wants to go as deep
Mm,
as you are, where you give everything to the relationship and you don't get anything back. I think
mm.
most of us have probably felt like that in at least one relationship in our life, so it's really powerful.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it is.
Uh,
It almost reads like something Chimera would say to a friend at a dinner table, like, you know why here's why you got problems. You keep falling for people that won't let you in.
That.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yep.
yep.
Well,
My
Erica,
final question.
yeah.
I got
Oh,
one more
yeah.
question
Oh,
for
yeah.
Erica. Does
Yeah.
the puppy have
Uh-huh.
a name yet?
Oh, so the puppy is Cash.
Mm.
I
Nice.
pushed against that, but here we are. So
I was really
Cash,
waiting after
Cash
the
money.
cash money. I love that. I after the entire conversation we just had, I was really expecting you to say, "Oh, Chimera." It's Chimera.
I mean, listen, I would have went for it, but my husband, not so much.
Not so much. Well, Erica, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you being patient. We really appreciate your thoughts on Chimera. But more importantly, we really love Cash because that sounds like a cute dad.
Oh,
Our best to you and Cash.
Thanks.
Thank
Love you
you.
guys.
Oh,
you.
thanks, Erica. Love that there. Greg call. Well worth the wait there, Joseph. That was fun. Anytime we get a dog reference. We got so many calls queued up. This has been, I love doing this. This is fun. So we'll get to some calls. But I didn't understand this question at first. We got a super chat here I want to share. And I want to also highlight a sticker from LMG Sayers. Thank you for the super sticker. We appreciate that. CC Pruitt said this one. I like turtles, which is, I get that reference. What is going to happen to Tassie? And I was like, then I had that is Yord's Padawan that we saw in the first episode. And that's come up. The Zygerian Jedi, she was popular. She had she was a one-hit wonder. Shows up in an episode, a lot of fans. Do we get a follow-up? Is that season 2, Joseph?
Maybe that is season 2. I went on the same journey of you. I was like, Tassie. But there's so much that's happened in these several weeks. I forgot that Yord had a Padawan. And you know what? I hope the whole second season, if there is one, focuses on Tassie, because then we can maybe get some Yord flashbacks. We can get the tragic flashback when Tassie's trying to come along on this mission, and Yord is like, no, you can't come. Don't worry. I'll be back before you know it, Tassie. Don't get connected. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is really. I do think to some of the conversation that we were just having with Erica about finding out what tragedy happened in Chimera. I think this show is so centered on what do parental figures, elders, teachers owe young children, and I have to think that that's why Yord had a Padawan. Because there is a possibility of coming back to this is another cycle of a they're clearly closer in age, but of a parental figure, a teacher figure, and a younger person being traumatized by the loss of them. Memorable character. You just made me think of something too. We had a lot of fun. Loved Yord. Loved the performance of Charlie Burnett as Yord. I really think he was one of my favorite performers in the series so far. He got some fun guff thrown at him, right? A little bit of a hospital corners kind of guy, following the rule. I got it. But you know what? For him to have a Padawan, like you just said, close to his age, meant he probably was an overachiever, a good Jedi. I think he should be heralded as a Jedi with a lot to teach, and that's why he had this opportunity given to him to have a Padawan. Yeah, the way OSHA says you finally passed your trials, I feel like. Has he been like applying to try to take the trial since he was like 12? Yeah. It's like, I'm ready. And everyone, especially, only 100 years out or so, everyone's like, Vernestra was like 16. She was like 16, right? She became a Jedi Knight at 16. Like, yeah, absolutely. It can be done. Yeah. People are making some great predictions that we will see a funeral and that we'll see her at the funeral. Our friend Michael McCarthy says, if a soul survives, I hope he takes her as his Padawan. I mean, that would be, all of this trauma we now learn stemming from Saul being very certain of that OSHA and he were destined, which I have more empathy for Saul than I think some people in the community. And then losing Jackie, what an amazing, if he's able to get back on his feet and try again, amazing. I love that. Good stuff there. Great question coming in. Appreciate that. Going quickly to Chimera, we got some calls queued up. I know I said that, but I want to clear some of these questions too. Lauren Romo of the Galactic Podcast says, yes, somehow I feel as if Chimera is connected to the Coven in some way. We shall see. Yeah, and I know there's some clarification for Leslie Head on some stuff. I don't want to maybe I said too much already for those looking to be. Who knows? I still, the mystery of who he is and a long time ago, which I think lends some credence to what you're saying, tends to me. I feel like I'm running for president. I don't know what I'm saying. But I do think Chimera, I do want to know some specifics of his connection. I don't want it to be completely unresolved. Yeah, I think that Yord saying, "Oh, he gets in our heads," and then OSHA saying, "My mother could do that," feels like that's either there to be a red herring or there's something to follow up on. I don't. Now that we saw the flashback and we didn't see him involved in any of it, I kind of feel like maybe he's studied their dark arts, or their relationship with the thread, and he's picked up some of their skills. I want some resolution on that. but it doesn't feel like it's going to be a big part of the story. But I'd be delighted to be wrong.
Kaz says, Chimera was banished to the hole. The wishes were chanting around. Yeah, go down there. You live down there. Live down there. All right. All right. Question, call, sir. You decide.
Yeah. 8984M was typing a good thought while I was poo-pooing it. Rashomon storytelling often has a third perspective. Good point. And maybe in the end, maybe if we do get a monologue from Chimera about his past, it will be, yes, I was clinging to that hole and I saw everything happening, or here's my vision of what happened on Brendock. That'd be fascinating too. I'd be all for it.
Fascinating indeed. Indeed. Great questions coming in. Calls lined up. Where do we
one
feel?
quick thing here from Will McLean while we're on the topic. He seems to know about what happened.
That's true.
He does. And I think it absolutely could be that he's far more involved. But also, now that we saw last week's episode, I have the feeling like May saw Soul kill Mother Anasea. May probably understands that Soul chose to save Osha and she fell. And I feel like May could have reported those things to Chimera. So I'm not saying that he isn't involved or might have a different interpretation, but I also feel like everything he needed to sort of poke at Soul, he could have got from May telling him.
Side note, all 7 episodes now, the three of us, you, me, and Jennifer, have at one point called him Saul, like he drives a taxi cab in New York or runs a bodega, and Saul. It's the best.
Or he's a criminal defense attorney.
Yeah.
Southwestern
Love
America.
That. Love that. All right. We got our friend PLD queued up here now. PLD, Paul DeNuzzo, one of my favorites out there. Check out Holy Snokes podcast. Also, I'll sell this for him so he doesn't have to do it. I just recorded an episode of his One-Offs podcast. He and Maddie Gunner and I talking about Oasis for 90 minutes coming out soon. Paul, PLD, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm just in here enjoying a refreshing Canada Dry ginger ale, Ken.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
They are very refreshing. Ken, how do you feel about ginger beer?
As long as it's mixed with something. And same with ginger ale. You mix it like a ginger and Jameson, beer or ale, great stuff. Great.
I will agree with that. I'm a big JD and ginger guy myself, so I can't argue that that's a very an interesting combination for sure.
Yeah.
PLD, man. Favorite moment or scene thus far in Acolyte?
I have 2 small ones. What I mentioned. The first one, Kia D. Mundy's appearance, which, despite all the controversy, allows me to believe that the Weequay's life expectancy is also fluid. So that means we can get Hondo anywhere in the timeline now. Hondo could be hundreds of years old, and Hondo are not going to be there.
The Hondo watch continues with PLD. Yeah.
Yep.
I love the character. I can't wait for him to show up somewhere.
He held his own with Anakin in a fight in the Clone Wars and Anakin's Prime. So clearly, Hondo is the Sith Master in Acolyte.
That is what I'm waiting for to slip in right at the end there.
PLD, I want to get your other moment, but real quick, what is your dream-like scenario for Hondo to return? In what style, what form, what medium? Where you want him back?
Well, I think animation is always the best place for him, but we have him in animation, so I'd love to see them do a live action version. And he's got to be at the key point. Like I think the Mandalorian movie potentially, the Dave Filoni one, where he kind of comes in. If there's that portal sequence, Hondo's the one that can bring everybody together because everybody hates him or loves him, depending on who you're talking to. But they all have a connection with him. So I think him getting together and being a key part of the end of the end of the empire, so to speak, or the end of what's going on there. That could be my favorite bit. He gets the respect he deserves.
That would be great if it is a bunch of, ships all flying in and you get a shot of Hondo's flying saucer and people are like, what? Except for the animated show fans.
Well, yeah. Rise of the Resistance has established his long-running career that has many chapters. So I could absolutely see Filoni go. I mean, Ezra going, hey, I got a buddy. I know a guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would love for him to pop up in Skeleton Crew because he's had this long. His slow bend from absolute monster to goofy uncle begins in the Clone Wars by him having a little bit of a soft heart toward Boba and then toward the younglings.
Kitsune,
Right.
especially. They've named his ship after the Kitsune, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that as well. Skeleton Crew would be a great place for him. And quite honestly, I would love to see him in the second season of Ahsoka in the galaxy far, far away. Because quite frankly, if anybody else could make it over there, it would be Hondo Ohnaka somehow. You're not surprised to see him pop up anywhere.
Beautiful.
A new prophet for potentials in
There
a
you
new
go.
galaxy.
Beautiful. Well, what's your other scene here? Sorry, we cut you off for some Hondo talk, but
No, never apologize for that. I think the second part for me was Basil in general, his introduction, because I was a big Legends guy growing up. I read the books, and there's a lot of not so great stuff in there, but there's a lot of imagination in there too. And I felt like this show really tickled my fancy as far as the possibilities just seemed like endless, like in ways that it hasn't seemed all the time in Disney Star Wars era. Basil reminded me so much of Teak from the Battle of Endor. I'm a big Battle of Endor fan, so I just kind of like went back to my childhood, the popcorn, where I kind of almost liked the Battle of Endor almost more than Return of the Jedi at some points when I was a kid.
wow,
That's changed
love it.
now, but when I was a kid, I would like that just as much at least. So that's what I love seeing Basil there. It reminded me so much of my childhood there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joseph.
No. Please, Ken, go.
The appearance of Basil and then just how he played out, and I think there's more Basil storytelling to have, but just even him doing the weird kind of karate moves, trying to communicate, it was fun, and it reminded me of the overall spirit of Star Wars that is often present. Him and Teak would be a great team up. That would be amazing.
I would love that.
I think somebody on our YouTube was perfectly polite about it. But it's like, I really don't like this show at all, but it's got weird little dudes. It's like, it's a great way to talk about Star Wars. My favorite Basil shot is once Soul finally figures out what's going on and stuns May, and Basil's just kind of got that like, finally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great stuff. PLD,
Thanks,
thank you
PLD.
so much for calling in. We appreciate your scenes, moments, and conversations. There you go. Oops, sorry, I cut him off like a jerk. Look at me. I'm a jerk.
All right. Should we grab more calls here?
Yeah, let's get some calls going here. Let me let's see. I'm kind of just taking them in order here, but if you see anything you want to grab.
No. Go for it.
We have, here we go. Coming to the stage now is we have two Corys lined up, but this is Corey Flemings 214. That's the username we got right now. Still on mute. Corey, are you there? Can you hear me? There's Corey. How are you?
What's going on, Ken? Joseph in the cup. How y'all doing?
We're
Good.
doing great, my friend. We're doing great. How you doing?
Good.
And what do you want to talk about? Acolyte, favorite moment, favorite scene. What do you got?
All right. This is wild, but I'm gonna say the opening scene with May versus Indar, just because it made me question a lot. Like, why? First of all, why is a Jedi just chilling in a cantina? Then, secondly, why does everybody else like know her? Like May says something and everybody else like laughs. Like, we know Indar. She's our friend. She's our Jedi. She hangs out here all the time. But what would make a Jedi kind of leave their post or their duty for the most part and just chill in a bar? That really made me start to question my whole Acolyte journey and begin to question a lot about the show.
I love that. Yeah, and I think I've seen people talking about it, and I think maybe we'll get Indara's Wild Nights spinoff. But I feel like the idea is like back in the day, Jedi were out in the galaxy, not just at the temple, and that she's a part of that community, and everybody gets off work at 5 p.m. space time, and everybody goes down the pub like you do in the UK, and she's just being a part of the community because she is a part of the community, and everybody's seen her handle stuff. So when May's like, "I'll take you out," they're like, "Yeah, you will," because we've seen her fight.
There was something in what you said, Corey, of like you were joking around, but just kind of and paraphrasing, of course. But the idea of like, hey, that's our Jedi. I love that idea of now again. Is she hanging out at a bar? Is that a place where ne'er-do-wells hang out? I don't know. The Jedi Order can question, but I agree with Joseph. It's a community-based Jedi who's hanging out. They know her. They know her face. She's transparent about who she is. But what you're talking about that's being your favorite scene, that's not crazy at all. It's still one of my favorite sequences. I think it set the tone for action. It set the tone for the choices and the morality of it all, and also some of the brutality of even though there was some speculation of Indara's death, what happened in this scene going in because of some of the trailer stuff and the poster stuff, it set the tone. So I think that's a great choice for a favorite.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that whole scene works. If that were just like a short Star Wars film, it would stand alone. Like, I'm glad we got the whole rest of the story, but just that idea of like, well, how do you possibly kill a Jedi? Like, well, with her empathy and the way that look on her face, like she knows, like, you got me, you know?
Yeah.
I'm gonna save that person, so I'm gonna die. So be it. It's brutal.
It was definitely brutal, but and plus it was also all new. Like the hand-to-hand combat, the weapons that they were using, knives, and all that was just new, and the setting also. I mean, the Mandalorian took a lot of people out in the bar, but just a Jedi doing this as well was very new and exciting for me just to watch.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And a lot of people in chat agree with you. 8984M says, I think Indara is a bar person like Kenobi. Eddie says to the pub. LQ says Cantina's on her beat. So I think it is there. Corey, thanks for listening. Thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. You guys enjoy.
All right. Thanks, Corey.
You too.
Corey there. Good stuff there. Yeah, we saw that scene, as did a lot of folks, Joseph, at the Phantom Menace screening when they released it. And even though they didn't, all of it wasn't in there, of course, they kept the big reveal out. I was really happy to see that. And again, a tone setter that's fun to revisit. And it'll be fun to revisit. I haven't revisited it yet since the show's for 7 episodes.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Love that there. Right. Got a lot of questions here. It's only 3:20 too. Look at us.
It's only 3:20, but maybe we should blow through some of these questions as well. Here, got a couple of nice super chats. Maybe we should grab those here.
Go for it. Go for it.
This is from Belky with an excellent Worf avatar there. Have we ever seen a Force lightning scar before in animation? Chimera scar looks very similar to real-world lightning scars, and the whip seems to be a red herring. Where do you go with that, Ken?
Yeah, I again, you just kind of go with gut instincts here, and sometimes the show's been playing with mysteries, and other times it's like, no, here's the answer. We're going to deal with the answer. And just when he had that moment, and he turns around, and it's intentionally vague, I just, and even if it was Vernestra, I'm going to still go, what did you do, buddy? Like, what happened? What happened? And I'm not trying to justify the violence towards him, and I don't want to take that too far out into the real world, but you know what I mean? Like you're always hiding something, and you're only delivering partial truths or perspectives, and they sound good. But everything about that moment read, I'm in a Ponzi scheme that's pretty dangerous. You want in?
Yeah, no, I agree. When we got to talk about it a little bit, I feel like it would be cool if it was a Force lightning scar. I don't remember seeing. I remember seeing a lot of people get hit by lightning, and I think there's some concept art and illustrations of Asajj from the. Anyway, but I don't know if we've seen scars. So I kind of hope it's lightning because the whip feels like a red herring to me too. So we'll find out.
Find out soon enough, right?
Yeah, thank you very much, Belky, for the super chat. Grab this one here from Randy Tillman. Love the positivity. What's your top? I didn't realize how deep of a question it is. What's your top 5 lightsaber fights? And do you think we will get a sequel series like Clone Wars in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens? Thank you, Randy Tillman. Ken started a show that we used to do called Star Wars Ranked, where we would take about 90 minutes to list our top 5 of anything. Yeah. But quickly to the sequel series like Clone Wars in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. I hope so. I feel like a lot of the tea leaves seem to be next animated series being something to do with the path, because we've heard about it in Kenobi. The Tales of the Jedi with Barriss Offee kind of teed it up. Asajj's business and Bad Batch kind of teed it up. So that's kind of my prediction. But we've talked about a lot on the show over the years. I would love a Luke's Jedi School show with young Ben Solo. I think it's a great way to spend quality time with those characters. It'd be amazing and wonderful if Mark Hamill and Adam Driver wanted to do it. But after the wonder of the Clone Wars and different actors adding to the legend of characters with different voices, I'd be fine if it wasn't them. I hope that, in the next 10 years or so, it would be absolutely wonderful to have a show like that. Ken?
With you. Yeah, we've been championing that for a while. I'll even go back to like 2015, where I think you and I were talking about a Luke and Lor San Tekka traveling the galaxy hunting for Jedi relics. So take that, throw it in with a lot of the young Ben and Luke. And I know there's been this idea. I have no inside scoop, no hints, no tips, no hot scoops, none of that, of an announcement for an animated show being imminent. I don't know where that's coming from. I haven't traced the news story, but I would love that, and I hope there is one. There's no guarantee there is one these times in the entertainment industry. I mean, dear God, people you and I both know lost their jobs this week. The industry is listing in a lot of ways, and it's it's being felt in a lot of different spots. So I'm hopeful that there's a new Star Wars animated show on the way. But I like that. I want it to be in this era. That's for sure. And something like the path leading in towards, and I know that goes back into a different era, but this era, the Return of the Jedi between Force Awakens, I think there's a lot of place to mine.
Mm-hmm. Ken, can we do it? Can we do a rapid fire top 5 lightsaber fights? Is that possible? Are we capable of that?
It's possible.
Anything is possible.
Anything
through possible. The Force.
Okay. You just want to ping pong it?
I think that'll be which will be easier for you, to ping pong or to bullet point.
I need time to think here, but
okay. I think I can start. I'll go first, and you can be the big finale. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm probably going to take some of yours. Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. That's okay.
And I'm going to count on my fingers because I'm now halfway through my beer. First, Obi-Wan versus Maul in The Phantom Menace. I think that's always just going to be one of my favorites. Second, Luke versus Vader in Empire Strikes Back. That goes deep, deep, deep into my formative memories. And yeah, anyway. Third, Obi-Wan and Maul again in Rebels, their final crossing of blades and all the lessons and ideas and why Obi-Wan ignites it. Knowledge and defense. You know what? Hey, I'll throw it in. This Chimera lightsaber fight, that entire episode that was almost entirely a lightsaber fight. I'm gonna throw that in there. There was a great effort to add new stuff, new twists, which means I need to come up with one last favorite. Oh, you know what? I'll show some love to the sequel trilogy and the lightsaber fight between Rey and Kylo in Rise of Skywalker in particular. I know it's not for a lot of people, but I love that it's a really different kind of lightsaber fight where we see a hero, someone who's ultimately a hero, try to tap into the dark side and doesn't quite work for Rey. There's also just a lot of invention in that fight. The huge waves, the leaping over the waves, the force blocking of blades, which then becomes kind of a popular thing. Oh, in my runner-up, because that's a thing we do here. The Vader and Kenobi fight in Kenobi is phenomenal as well. Yeah. I think. All right.
Whew. Excellent. No, excellent. I might step on some of them, but yeah, in the old days we would make sure we weren't sharing things. I will go, and a lot of this is how we did Star Wars Ranked. A lot of it was just like what you were feeling that day when it was time to record. I want to go Force Awakens. I want to go Finn, starting it. Finn and Rey versus Kylo. I love it. I love the lightsaber going to Rey. I love the moment. I love her letting the Force kind of in to guide it. And when she gets that shot on him, I'll never forget some of the cheers that were felt in the theater, both in the screening I was at on the first time and then also in the theater with the general public that weekend. Big applause for that one there. So I'll put that up there. I will go. I'm in a little bit of a Revenge of the Sith mode. I'm going to go Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar. I think I was, there was, it's not, I don't even want to say it's grown on me. It's always kind of been what it is, but I just appreciate it even more now. Especially, I think Kenobi, the series, maybe do that. I will say, God, it's hard not to include the Empire fight, but I'll try to push past that a little bit there. I will absolutely have to shout out the Return of the Jedi fight is my number one. I'm jumping around. The rums make me jump around. My number one all-time lightsaber fight is Return of the Jedi, which, of course, I would say ends, with Luke throwing down his blade, making it even a more special and important and poignant lightsaber fight. My second one is always going to be Maul and Kenobi on Rebels. It's just absolutely phenomenal. God, and I need one more. All right, no, oh God, that's not right. Phantom Menace. Attack of the Clones. No. I'll go. I was gonna go a little bit of. I was in the mood for. Well, no, I already did Kenobi and Anakin. I can't do the. Screw it. I just go Empire. Sorry.
This is one of the reasons we haven't been doing Star Wars Ranked is because Ken and I take something that we should be able to do in 20 minutes and we rewatch half of the films because we No one has ever, of all the comments we've got in like 9 years, no one has ever been like, you guys didn't research your Star Wars ranked opinions enough, and yet we torture ourselves.
Yeah, some other great shows. JMB says Maul and Savage versus Palpatine. I think that's an underrated one. I think it's underrated.
The behind the back double. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ahsoka versus Maul, Season 7 Clone Wars is amazing. Oh, God, this is the one. All right, I changed my... Thank you, Big Lou. I'm pulling... I should have had that pizza for lunch. I'm pulling back the Empire fight. It's amazing. It's an all-timer. Don't you worry. I love it.
I got it.
Ahsoka versus Vader and Rebels. I absolutely love that one. It moves me.
It's powerful. Yeah.
And you know what? Sergeant Fubar said Windu versus Sidious. Yeah, that's kind of a main event match for me. Yep.
Yeah, it really is. And there's some great moves. The shattering of the window. Yep. And then, I have to. This is one of my greatest memories as a Star Wars fan. Not my favorite lightsaber fight, but remember the reaction in the cinema that opening night when Yoda ignited his saber versus Dooku. I've said it many times. My old friend Doug Shaw just pounding his thigh in joy because it finally happened. It is amazing.
It finally happened. All right, we are at 3:30. Joseph, I got to do what sometimes happens on the show. I have to step away to check the mail. I got to see if the mail.
Is that a euphemism?
No, I got to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
So I'll let you handle it just for 1 second.
I could have been listed on my lightsaber fights. Well, Ken was seeing a man about Neope. Going. Well, I want to wait for some of those bigger questions until Ken gets back. Oh, we have this from Erpy Lopez from a while back saying, my favorite scene in The Acolyte was Kamir's monologue when his helmet had just been knocked off and he was holding a lightsaber to May's head. Would love to hear you talk about a bit about that. Yeah, I think that's a big part of the mystery of his identity that we haven't fully resolved, and the way that he plays with the Jedi, with Soul's Great, what are you? And when he's saying, well, I don't have a name. And so I guess the Jedi would call me Sith. It's definitely being manipulative in twisting the metaphorical knife about the Sith that exist and you don't know, or we've returned and all that. But there's also kind of this, like a lot of his sort of like, I'm so wounded and lonely, I don't even have a name. I have been wondering if the I don't have a name is because he got kicked out of the Sith lineage, that he was someone's apprentice, as many people have been thinking, and got kicked out, and with it his name, his true name, Darth whatever it is, Darth Guns, Darth Biceps, is why he is talking about not having a name, is something that has been occurring to me. So thank you for sharing that thought, that question. We got this one from Rich T, who says, maybe you guys can answer this. They said a virgins in the Force is a location usually. I understand that Anakin being a virgin is what it is, but what if Tatooine has a virgins? That's interesting. Okay. I tend to lean towards no. I kind of think that Tatooine is a planet that is significant because that's where Anakin ended up, and that Tatooine gets returned to because it's a pivotal point in various criminal trades. But that, to me, it does still kind of hold that it is not a super significant place in the galaxy. So I wouldn't be quick to the Virgins theory, but I'd be happy to see a story about it and be happy to be wrong. Ken, did you find a Virgins in the bathroom?
I did, and I'm feeling a lot better. I'm reading to catch up with the question. I think the Virgins is not Tatooine in my mind. It is around Anakin, whatever that means. And I know there's some clarification that came out this week that I think was great. And it's so funny. I have a pal who was really upset that Acolyte destroyed Anakin in his mind. Your thought to have, your opinion to have. I didn't even try to debate him or take it away from him. And then this other information came out, and he was still like, I still don't care. It sucks. So, what can you do? What can you do? But I do like that it's something different, and that it could still tie to what eventually not happens with Anakin, but what Palpatine or his master sought out, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were the first. I think they heard some things at some point. And if this is one of those things or the thing, I'm on board for that.
Mm-hmm. Rich T follows up saying Tatooine has his avergence, leads me to think that's why Anakin was born, since it seems like that's what led to the twins being born on Brendok. Yeah, I feel like it'll be very interesting to see how much this final episode of Acolyte clarifies things. I kind of feel like I know a lot of people have very firm interpretation of Anakin was not made by anyone. The Force made him, and the Plagueis novel deals with an attempt to push back the Force and to do something, and then the Force creates Anakin, all that stuff. I think there is an interesting room for some clarity and clarification, but it feels to me like the story that the Acolyte is telling is this is very different than Anakin. That this specific power was used to supplement the witch's ability, and it was created. But I'd be fat. I mean, storytelling is always going to come back to Tatooine, since the Hasbro did the Cantina, and now we're doing a Return to Tatooine action figure theme over the next year. So if there's a Virgins in toys, it's that Cantina HasLab that I luckily got. So thanks for a great question, Rich.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Good stuff. Good stuff. We got a question here. Let's see. Where do we got here? Where do we got? This one's been here for a while, Joseph, right?
Yeah.
Hernan, thank you, Hernan, for a very generous super chat. We really appreciate that. It does help the show. I really like the ideas of the show, but I've struggled with the execution. It's great to explore new timeline characters, though. Regardless, you folks made me appreciate it more. Thanks. And I love that. And I saw some stuff in chat too of like, we were joking, but I think I love people that love the shows with us or want to dive in with us, but I love when the folks come and go, hey, don't love it, didn't love it, love hearing you talk about it. And it's never our intention to convince you to like it along with us, but I do think we put stuff out there that makes you think about it, and then eventually maybe you might have a different appreciation of it or a different understanding of it or a different kind of joy from it. And Hernan, I really appreciate you being part of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like we talked about earlier in the show, like there's definitely some structural things, and one or two like, that wouldn't be my first choice. But I feel like I think that's just so fine. Like Star Wars is so big, and like I struggled with parts of the prequels, even though I love them. I've talked a lot about I was this very specific sliver of generation that had lots of problems with Return of the Jedi, and it's a beautiful and amazing that there's some people that are like, I can't believe anybody ever disliked Ewoks. For the people like right around my cluster of my exact age, it was a known truth from playground to bars for years and years that, of course, there's that joke in Scream 2, I believe, about the Ewoks, if I'm remembering correctly, because that exact generation this is a known truth. So I think and eventually I abandoned that truth. And I think going, a lot of this isn't for me, but I'll still kind of stick with it, gives the thing grace to grow, and maybe you'll come back to it someday and go, I kind of like the way this grew on me over the years. Maybe you won't, but starting with a place of grace for it, I think gives it a chance to blossom for you later. And maybe it won't, but maybe it will.
Yeah. So thank you, Hernan. Great stuff. Appreciate that. All right, so calls. We got 898 for him. We got Corey. We got Jedi James. You too can call in. You can do that by becoming a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/ForceCenter. There you get a link to call into the show. We take your audio, but I'll let you know, if your camera's on, we'll see you. So dress accordingly. All right. We haven't had any issues, but we're just taking the voices here. Let us bring on 898 for M. This is I got the wrong setup there. There we go. Good thing his camera's off. I almost put him there. Brady Kyrie, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, happy Friday.
Friday indeed.
Yeah.
Good thing I did not have my camera on. Oh my god.
Yep. Sorry, I had the wrong setup.
So
yeah, go ahead, Joseph. Go ahead.
No. You're radio cop. Go for it.
That sounds. Wait, I should do some sort of, Yeah. What is your favorite moment or scene in The Acolyte thus far? 898 for him.
Yeah, it's a good thing I had most of the show to think about this. I think for me, it's the arc of Soul. Maybe that's just like the past episode. Yeah, because I think throughout these series where a lot of us felt, Soul, has a lot of Qui-Gon energy. He's like he's what we want a Jedi to be. And in the most recent episode, we see that go wrong, and it's this very interesting, like twist in a way. It's like, wait, this is what we want, but he's in this context, he's making the wrong decision. Yeah, and I think to complete the thought is that I kind of get it because it feels weird because structurally it's at the end of what we see, but this time period is before, and I think it's in the flashback. He's kind of more like Luke in a way, where he's impulsive, right? And he makes some very Luke mistakes where he's like, "I have to do this. I have to be the hero." And I think through his regret, he kind of grows from that. Of course, he hasn't faced the full consequences because he hasn't told Osha. But yeah,
I think that's a really great way to look at it. Just remembering, because I think the show has been playing with, are we on these characters' side or not? So we can be quick to be like, we're on Soul's side, now we're not on Soul's side. But that's not taking into account that he's grown and changed. This is a mistake he made in his youth. And now who is he based on that mistake that he made in his youth is really great. And I love the Luke comparison. I think, a lot of fans celebrate Luke for saying, attachment and compassion isn't all bad. I reached out to my father and gave him a chance, but in Empire, it's more about Luke's fear of loss. He can't even imagine losing Han and Leia. And I think for me, Soul is a lot like Luke in Empire, of like his heart is absolutely in the right place. He feels a true connection with Osha to me. And I think he feels something true that Osha truly wants to leave. But he also wants it so bad that maybe he's getting a little selfish in it. And maybe the Soul that we're spending a lot of time in the current timeline of the Acolyte is much more Luke in Return of the Jedi, where he has a little bit more balance.
Yeah, great stuff, and yeah, the performance of Soul has just been wonderful and warm and heartbreaking. You feel the pain. We talk often about the good intentions, or at least the intent of the Jedi Order, needing to be part of the conversation. And this last episode did highlight, like, Jedi Order says, "Hey, pull back. You're done. Go pick up weeds. That's what we sent you there for. Stop this." But Soul's feeling something, and not unlike Qui-Gon, and we talked about it even on our breakdown of the episode. Of Qui-Gon makes I'm just gonna see what happens choice. And I know we mention the chance cube all the time, and there's different interpretations of that. But just again, I'd say letting a 9-year-old in a pod race is letting the fates decide this in a way, and see what's happening. But with Soul, man, it I don't know. Just there's something I want his intentions to be taken into account in the overall conversation, depending on where he goes. It was heartbreaking, and I use the example. I don't even know if it's the best example of just like him in a way pushing the light side over, and I always want to say not over the dark, but just like. The lights, follow the light side, and I'm gonna push it. I'm gonna push it up to the line. I still think that's a good spot to be, but that doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that everyone's perfect, or we have our opinions. It doesn't mean they're always the right interpretations, or maybe we have an opinion that's true to us, but we push it over someone else by not accounting for their journey and their choices. And I think that's a lot of what's going on, and a wonderful depiction of a nice, good intended, complicated Jedi.
Yeah. Quick question for you, 8984M. I feel like Soul clearly feels guilt, both about what happened and definitely about not saving May, and also hiding it from Osha and May. And he's clearly like, I want this to come out. And I've been thinking about what to say to you for 16 years. I kind of feel in the last episode that we might get from Soul directly. How did he feel he failed? We've all been having really fun discussions and interpretations of how did he fail.
Yeah.
Are you expecting and hoping to hear from Soul his own opinion about him saying I cared too much, or I should have left you alone, or whatever?
Yeah. I kind of feel the resolution to this series might be him coming to terms of his actions, basically. Like, I guess kind of in The Last Jedi, the Yoda and Luke and the burning tree moment. And I don't really expect to have this giant climax that you're expecting it. Though, of course, the fighting choreography is amazing, so that'd be very nice. But yeah, I think the crux of this series is really just him and Osha just coming to terms, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to terms.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
How final thought to you, 898-4M. How are you going to feel if he survives and moves on? What would you hope for him? Or, how are you going to feel if this is the last stand of Soul?
Yeah, honestly, after seeing Yord and Jackie go, I have mentally prepared myself that Soul is going to be gone. But I think regardless, I don't know if he's going to have like a happy, everything is fine. We're all dancing like the Bollywood movie ending. Yeah, I think the way the series is setting up, like Soul is he's gonna be put. I think they're already setting up that he's gonna get a lot of blame. Maybe what is it called? Disproportionate bit blame for most of this. And there's might be some bittersweetness in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I feel like that Jedi funeral that we're all expecting might have multiple members there. I think Soul might be in that list, unfortunately.
Well, now I'm sad, but I'm also uplifted by a great conversation there. Hey, for him. Brady, thanks for calling in, buddy. Okay.
Thanks for having me. Have a good weekend.
Love hearing from Brady there. Great. We got questions rolling in. We're going strong.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Do you need to step out at any second? You let me know.
I'm doing shockingly well. I have a tiny amount of beer left, and don't need to see a person about Neope yet. So we do have a couple of super chats. I feel like we should get to, because they've been in here for a bit. This comes to us from Cameron Stewart. Thank you for the kind super chat. I love the way the mysteries are revealed. They aren't typical Star Wars huge revelations. Are they twins? Yes. Is Khmer the bad guy? Yes. What happened on Bendok? They effed up. Simple, effective. Yeah, I think we often bang on about the why when people are coming up with theories, and we always like, well, why? What's the storytelling point? What's it going to tell us about the characters? What's it going to tell us about George Lucas setting the Star Wars story up to be a morality tale, and sometimes coming around to a lesson, like truly a lesson. I don't think all Star Wars storytelling does that, but I think it builds on the morality tale. And I feel like from what you're saying, Cameron, is like there are all these fun mysteries of what's going to be the answer, but what the show cares about is the why, because the answer is usually pretty clear. Like, yeah, the Jedi effed up, and we've known that since May confronted Indara at the pub. In this episode, we got the how and the why, but they've been pretty straightforward on the what.
I enjoy the straightforwardness on the what. I think in a show that was pitched to all of us, like I said earlier, of a murder mystery, or you got kind of some of that element in it. And then the trailers, and I'll admit I was maybe jumping the gun or not giving the trailers the benefit of the doubt. I was complaining a little bit, both maybe even on air or privately, of just like, I know too much. But I like that the show has been like, no, you knew what we wanted you to know. And there's still so much behind it. But I like even when, to like Cameron's point of, the answer is the answer. What happened on Brendok? They all effed up, and now we have to deal with that. And that's what I want this show to address. And this show, I think, feel is addressing is those moments in all of our lives that don't go as planned. You don't make the right decision, and the mystery is how you gonna deal with it. How you gonna move on from it? That's the mystery.
Yeah, show's done a great job of building that theme from early on about and being reinforced about halfway through by Jackie. We're not defined by what we lose. We're defined by what we survive, which I think is a different way of saying, like, how do you move forward from tragedy rather than being defined by it?
That's a great Jackie line. Again, great moment. Yeah, the good stuff.
All right. Thank you, Cameron. Should we grab one more super chat?
I love that idea. We got a couple coming in here, so I'll highlight this nice one from Bill Rooklyn. No question, this is appreciation. May force be with you. We appreciate you, Bill. That is a really generous donation. We appreciate that. Barf comes back, which, by the way, great username for Josh Gad moving forward Spaceballs too. Let's do it.
Oh boy.
Here's I'll say it's a wild theory, but this is what we're also here for. What if Osha is the one that ends up being Plagueis? The show's called The Acolyte, after all. So I don't think that will happen. But even just the revelation we were talking about earlier of could Tenebris actually be Chimera? Could he pull the mask off and he is a Bith? All that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like that. And I don't think it's about them changing anything that we thought. Or there's some room in between Legends and canon about making Plagueis maybe what you want. So I don't necessarily think that's the case. But the spirit of what Barf is saying here, I really love the idea of playing around with something that kind of being a shoe drop ending.
Yeah, I think I think that's one of the things that I'm most interested in for the finale is Osha's fate, because I feel like Osha has been so throughout this show, she hasn't been able to tap into using the Force, but she continues to make the Jedi choice. She made all the best Jedi choices in Episode 5 Night. Episode 4 Day was to me really set up of like both May and Osha need to go into the dark forest and face the truth, face themselves. And May literally runs away 87 times, which some people have found kind of funny, the amount that she runs away. I find it like really meaningful and truthful. Like, I'm not facing anything. Osha keeps turning around and facing things. She's the one who has the higher Jedi calling. She's the one who's intuitive and finds a better solution to the conflict to buy them time to get away from Chimera. So I feel like she's been so, out of everybody who's messy and made mistakes, she's the most Jedi coded. So it kind of breaks my heart to think that, is Chimera going to break her? I know the question is explicitly about Plagueis, but I think for me, like, going to the why, it's about what would break her, and that would be a heartbreaking ending if Osha falls to the dark side. I would want that then to be an absolute cliffhanger. We go to a season 2, because in terms of what is this show ultimately saying, it would just sort of be a bummer to be like, and some people can't get over their tragedies, like our main character.
You're lost.
Can't get over it. Can't move on.
I like that there. Good stuff. Let's clear these super chats here. We got 2 in the hopper here. We'll get to some calls. We got Corey lined up. We got Jedi James lined up here in the calls.
Nice.
Flamesy says, why was May turning into a mist as well when Anastasia was turning into it? A great question. Also, side question, could you see 11-4D if Plagueis returns? 11-4D, of course, the protocol droid around Tenebris and Plagueis there as well. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe we don't even see Tenebris or Plagueis or anything, but like Chimera escapes. He's all bloodied. He's bruised. He's cut up. He's got a shirt off because let's just make sure we got one more shot of that. Let's do that. And he gets to it, and the door opens, and it's 11-4D going, we've been waiting for you to come home. And that's how they reveal that maybe more's coming. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the explainer articles, the value of that one action figure pack that I believe had 11-4D in it. I could be misremembering. So don't quote me on that. But
yes,
I think May turning into a mist, the way that I interpreted it is that it was that basically like a teleportation. That I think somebody else had a theory of like they're moving through the Force or whatever. Maybe it's just they become mist. So it entirely turned to me just about defense. I love Mother Anastasia. Like, we can't have this violence, and it is Coral and Torben who escalate. And as soon as Mother Anastasia feels like, okay, this is out of control, there's going to be violence, I need to get my daughter to safety. I think that's the great horror of it, is that she was teleporting herself and May out of there.
I agree with you. That's how I read it. And I made, I don't want to say it was even a joke, but I made kind of a passing reference to things of just like ill-timed, that like why in that moment, like Anastasia, like, not that I expect you to announce what you're doing, but it was ill-timed. But that's kind of this whole scene for me, right? That's the tragedy of everyone's intentions, other than maybe, we got Torben on the hook for some things. We got Mother Coral on the hook for some things. But everything was just kind of like protection, safety. I got to get my kid out of here because you're all going to fight in the bar, Torben and Coral. And everything had some good intent behind it in a general sense, but it was just a giant mess. And it was a giant tragedy. And that was one of them for me. It was heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. So I'm not saying I wouldn't want her to do it in that moment. Like, that's not fair to say to this mother, but that it wasn't, destructive. It wasn't violence against the Jedi. It wasn't a weapon. It was defense to get this kid out of here because I'm a mother, and it cost her life. Tragic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. But I think it was entirely like not an attack, just like protection of the child, because Mother Anastasia and Soul have been so aligned, and so sad.
Yep, indeed. All right, so a couple more super chats have come in. So should we change to some calls?
Yeah, let's do some calls and we'll get back to them super chats.
Corey's been waiting patiently. Corey, welcome to the show. How are you doing? What's your favorite scene and where you want to go?
Can you hear me?
We can.
All right, great. It's always fun to call in.
Good to have you.
The other Corey had said that the opening scene, Carrie Ann Moss, was his favorite, and I would double down with that. As soon as that scene came on, it felt Matrixy like, and I texted my brother and said, "Look, I know you like Andor, but you're not into it. You got to watch it." And then the last episode, I felt like was the gateway to so much. Her scenes is such a gateway to all the Legends literature that we've had that I would love to see more of, because we always have, if you go on the internet and you look, everyone's complaining, why they ruined Star Wars, and it's their opinion, so it's fine. But you'd like to see the such a depth of literature from Legends, because I've read almost every book now, and I'd love to see some connections. Whether I'm not saying I need to see Tenebris or Plagueis in this, but there's so much that Star Wars recently has been open to including. And it started with Thrawn, with Rebels, and every time they do it, it seems like it's a winning situation for everybody, because the Legends books from Timothy Zahn on, and even the canon, has so much great stuff that you'd be foolish not to include that. And I know they have a cutoff point and they have to shut off. Okay, this is now Legends branded, and it's a shame, but this show is, for me, it's even more than Ahsoka. It's allowing all this stuff that we've had in these books to be kind of nudged into the canon, which is just, for a Star Wars fan, it's great to see. What I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
I love it, and as someone who's been open with, I didn't take the deep dives in the EU and everything, but I do. You said something that I really like, Corey. Of it's been kind of a winning situation. I might be paraphrasing.
Yeah,
but it takes decades of love for things that are out there that aren't away, they aren't gone, they're legends. And I understand. I understood the insult that some felt, and I understood some of the hurt feelings that some still have over that. But it takes it and it recontextualizes it, and I think in a different way, but also takes the core of what the characters or the moments or the planets represent. And it also, I think Leslie Headland and her crew here have been open about it. Leslie being an EU kid, saying like, here's the things that inspired me, so I'd love to play around with that kind of thing. So I'm with you on that. A character like Indara. Carrying on Moss in this last episode was one of my favorite things in this show. I loved her in the beginning, loved the fight sequence, loved her in chapter 3, but that was also, intentionally you were kind of questioning some of her motivations and her choices of words and her attitude. Here you get a bigger, more complete picture. She's an interesting character. So if you want to do anything with that, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I really agree with you about like leaning into people's relationship with Carrie-Anne Moss from The Matrix. I love The Matrix. I think it's so significant that it came out the same summer as Phantom Menace and had such a relationship with it. And I love how much they've leaned into it, not just with Indara's abilities, but even the character poster where Indara's got her hand out, like the famous shot of Trinity from The Matrix in the phone booth at the very beginning. It's been great the way they just like, we love that. We're not hiding it. In terms of the Legends stuff, I think for me, what's most important is kind of taking that spirit of Legends that Lucas clearly, whichever parts of Legends he liked or didn't like or whatever, I think he clearly had that like, I made a sandbox, go play. If you create something that I think is great, I'll include it in some of my stuff in that. And I think that whatever you think of Acolyte, it's got a sense of we're in a sandbox and we can play. Like, let's have these different kind of witches than Night Sisters. Let's make up a different little weird dude. Hey, a bunch of witches possess a Wookiee with a lightsaber. That does feel like I probably played that in a video game at some point in the 90s, you know?
Yep.
That whole vibe of this can expand. Why not? Let's have fun. That's the most important thing for me to take from both from Legends and from the modern publishing, where people are just really having fun in the sandbox and trying new things.
Yeah. I mean, I ordered the encyclopedia. It's on my bookshelf, and I just like looking at it and like saying, okay, what am I going to look at today? And just picking something. And
great.
I mean, it's the Star Wars universe has had so much. There's a reason why it's been around, and people underrate, you know, the fact that Lucas said, go have your sandbox and make those stories up. And, you know, people that just have seen the movies don't understand that, you know, there's so many books that are just wonderful books, and that there's this huge, dense pile of information that they have these 3 volumes that I'm looking at right now of just stuff you wouldn't think ever to think about, you know, and we have it printed, and, you know, it's wonderful to see it kind of slip into the canon, because I think after 10 years of owning it, they've realized that, all right, we can't reinvent the wheel, but wait a minute, we haven't licensed it, but there's all this stuff we can just kind of take into it. So that's what I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited to hear how they're gonna, you know, how the show's gonna end, and to see what they're gonna do with regards to the Sith have been around for thousands of years. Well, how are they gonna? You know, I mean, that's very intentional. That Ki-Adi-Mundi scene saying, like, you know, he's got less gray hair, but he's still there, and he's, you know, there's no mistaking this. So they're going to have to account for it. I'm excited for it, and I appreciate you guys doing this, because it's just you know, ForceCenter is my go-to for whenever you guys post something new. It's always great to check it out and rewatch it if I missed something. You know.
Thank you so much, Corey.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate that, Corey. Really appreciate your passion for all kinds of Star Wars over many, many different years, and that's great. And I'm with you on all of that. That's good stuff. Thank you, Corey. All right, Corey checking out. We got Jedi James getting in here. Then we got Ryan too here. I feel like I'm at a call board, like back. One of my mom's first jobs when I was a kid was the old operator switcher with the old thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
we should
really.
do that.
Dude. All right, Jedi James, you're on the show here right now, so unmute and join the conversation. We want to know what your favorite scene from Acolyte is thus far. Jedi James, you there, buddy?
I'm right here. I'm enjoying life. I'm loving Star Wars, listening to arguably the greatest Star Wars podcast out there. My subjective opinion.
You know, I'm not gonna argue with your arguably, but we're humbly accepted your praise and happy you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. My favorite scene of the show, I feel like it could change on a dime at any point, because there's been so many good ones. But I'm gonna go with my gut at the moment. Could be recency bias, but just kind of the whole of episode 7. I loved it so much. I may think it might be one of my favorite Star Wars television episodes to date, quite frankly. And it's just because of all the great things that were put in it, and just showing this story that has unveiled to us slowly but surely. And we knew, to quote other friends, the Jedi effed up. But to see the true complexity of it all, and to just see in my personal reading, my personal take, there was never any one fully right, one fully wrong on either side. There was just a lot of understandable motivations or intentions or feelings or fears, but they either were pushed too far, or they just had too much fear, falling to fear, or just not taking the time to listen to all the information needed, which sadly is a fact in life sometimes. And you just have these moments where you see, oh, Soul, you so want to Padawan, you so want to do right by these people and rise a Jedi, but you're not taking the time to learn everything about the witches. Oh, Mother Anastasia, you're wonderful. You're one of my favorite characters in Star Wars now. Jodie Turner-Smith is so amazing. But also, you're putting some fear in Torben, and understandable because they're kind of intruding on your home. But did you put a little too much fear into them? And on and on I could go. May, you don't want to be separated by your twin, but you're being a little too forceful here. I could just keep going to, as you both said in your, you and Jennifer said in your amazing episode that, quite frankly, I will also say I think is one of your finest ForceCenter episodes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And you've made many great ones, but let's be clear. But I really just loved everything you did put together in that show, and just as you said, it just kept cascading. I want to put a spreadsheet out or something.
Yeah.
And I also think I love it so much just because I will say this nonstop in this era where people understandably at times like things that are a little more complex, a little, dare we say, grayer or whatever. And hey, I'm a Game of Thrones fan too, Ken, so I understand people's reactions to that. But I always say you can have good and evil, and you can still have complexity with it. And I will always say the Jedi are the good guys. Justice for the Jedi. That's my T-shirt right there. But this episode was fully, here's that complexity you can still have, because in my opinion, there's massive amounts of complexity. So I'm jabbering. I'm going probably too long here. But, I really did enjoy that episode just for all the great complexity it did, and showing you can have that in Star Wars. Still good versus evil. I still feel the Jedi are good guys. In fact, I feel episode 5, another favorite of mine, is proof of, again, Jedi making very good actions. Even our pal Yord made rest his soul in the forest.
God bless Yord.
But the episode just really resounded. Yeah. It could be recency bias, but I just really loved what that episode did. And small honorable mention here, I have to. Not my favorite, but I loved seeing some early steps with the old trade feds and their nervousness.
Yeah.
As you said, a lot's happened, but that just came to my mind, and I'm going to be like, don't forget we saw the trade feds.
Yeah, and we're like, we're not doing anything wrong. I'm like, you are. Yeah.
We're not building up defense shields for any reason. No.
We're not using humans instead of droids. No.
What are you talking about? James, great stuff, and I feel your passion, and I'll pitch it to you, Joseph, to follow up. But I just want to say, you're not rambling, and it's not recency biased. You got a lot of reasons that you loved it, and I love everything you're saying there.
Yeah, I mean, I was, seeing your handle of Jedi James, I was very curious to see how you felt about there had been a lot of like, we know the Jedi messed up, but how, and in what context, and from what perspective, and I think. The more that I sit with it as a big fan of the Jedi, and I do believe the Jedi are ultimately the heroes of Star Wars, but even heroes make mistakes because they're not really, they're beings, they're humans, they make mistakes. And I think the more I sit with this last episode, I like the push-pull between Sol and Indara, where I can see kind of a couple sides of the Jedi where Sol is being a little bit more compassionate in leading with his emotions and saying, I know the council doesn't want us to get involved, but they're not here. And I sense that people are truly in danger, and that's my job to help people. And he takes that too far. And then Indara is being calm and rational, but at the same time, the episode doesn't really lean on it. But the more I think about it, May is misquoting her mother, but May says they're going to sacrifice everyone. And then Indara's like, council says, no, let's go home. Like, but a child said everybody's going to be sacrificed. So as much as like I love Indara, I don't think either of them are like totally to blame. They're like these two different pillars of like, just listen to the council and patience and follow the rules, versus being a little bit more emotional, a little bit more connected, a little bit ready to go. I'm here on the ground and I'm going to make a game decision. To me, it really points out the challenge of being Jedi, of you're appointing yourself to make these really hard calls. And this is a place where mistakes were absolutely made, but it just sort of illustrates the challenge of being a Jedi and walking that noble path that sometimes you fall from.
Sometimes you fall. No, that's great stuff, and a ForceCenter well said to you, Joseph and James. But there's something you said in there, James, of in a show that's like, hey, how did the Jedi F up? Or we knew we were going to get that kind of stuff. We knew maybe it was building to it. But even this last week, what I loved about it is it dealt with the realities, and it is still a series about good and evil. I said something along the lines of, you can change the questions in Star Wars, but the answers kind of remain the same. So I think this is not my clumsy way of describing what I felt about this episode of you could chart it, you could do a Google sheet of the mistakes or the choices or the intentions, And I think it was wonderfully delicious. And I love living in those gray areas. I just think sometimes overall, in all of our media, I think sometimes gray is used, and I always try to speak generally to not anyone out there specifically, not trying to insult, but I think sometimes that gray area is used as an excuse to praise the actions of evil. And that's not the result. It should take you through the murky waters, and you should come out with a decision or choice about who you want to be on the other side. And maybe that choice is evil. I don't know. But that's where I track it sometimes. It isn't just, I'd like a gray Jedi so he can chop heads off. It's a little more than that to me. And this series, I think, especially this last episode, dealt with some of that stuff.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you so much for the great thoughts, Jedi James.
Thank you, Jedi James.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm on pins and needles for what that last episode is going to be. And then, sadly, must wait for the next show. But also, a little space here and there is good.
No, it's good to rebuild the excitement.
A little excitement indeed. We got about 15 more minutes left in the show. We got a couple super chats. We got one call left to go here. Joseph, where's the Force taking you?
We got let's get to some of these kind super chats that have come in a little bit back here now from Boombox Music Talk. The ships in this series have been some of my fave in the new era. What ships, sets, or locations have you really enjoyed from the Acolyte? I've enjoyed a lot of them, but I think Chimere's ship has been my favorite because I think it does have some design connections with the Sith Infiltrator Maul's ship in Phantom Menace that I know goes on to be tracked in the comics and whatnot. It just looks cool all by itself. I'd never seen a ship like it. I'd be like, well, that's a cool design. But it also looks like this kind of like fun double wide Sith Infiltrator, which further kind of connects him to the legacy. And I like that they haven't made a huge big deal of it. It's mostly just kind of sitting there in the various planets' natural parking lots, looking awesome. And I hope we get to spend some quality time with that ship too. Maybe even get on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Or maybe even buy it in a set or something coming out soon. I'm sure there's already a Lego set on it. I love this question here. I think there's been some great ships, talking about just ship designs. And one thing I like, I don't know if this makes sense, but sometimes the Jedi ships so far are just, they're workmanlike, if that makes sense. They're just kind of, I know you got the Jedi, that was it, the Jedi High Republic kind of starfighter we see in the beginning. But the ship that they're in, like that Sol and everyone take to the planet, even the one Vernestra, which has, I know, a name that ties to her Padawan from High Republic that she lost. I don't know. There's just something about them that they're not super flashy to me, and I like that. That it's like, it's order issued. Go in the backyard, grab your van, get to work. And I like that. In terms of locations, I was trying to think of this as you were talking, Joseph, like, I like Brendak. I like Kafar, but the unnamed planet, especially because it was intentionally designed to make you think Octo. Because there was even times when just the trailer was out, we were talking about it. But one day, like one Saturday morning, I just texted Alex Dave and I was like, "All right, tell me, is that Octo? I need to know." And then to hear that, no, we wanted you to think that it was some kind of version of that. Is it the alt version of it? Is it just another way to look at it? I love it, and I'm intrigued to find out a little bit more if we get it. I don't know if we'll get more. The the legend ties, make a lot of sense. The cortosis of it all, but I don't know. I really like that setting. It was one of my favorite looks in the series.
Yeah, I think for me, there's been a lot of great location stuff, but I think that on Brendock in the witches mining facility they've made into a community, and whatever that hole is, I love the way it just seems like a sort of a natural cauldron, so it ties to our storytelling in the real world about witches, and then wondering a little bit more about is that the Vergence? It's a location, and as people were joking about in a great way, like in the fine tradition of holes that should have some railing on them in Star Wars, adds to it as well. So I hope we go back.
Indeed. We got this. Did I get the right one? We got two super chats here. Annie says this. Thank you all for some of the best ForceCenter episodes these past weeks. Your thoughts and ideas made me fully appreciate and understand this uncomfortable and very, quote, human show. Can't wait for the finale. I like that use of the word uncomfortable, Joseph. I'm really okay with some of the uncomfortable questions this show has asked. I will admit, and we've admitted on the show, got a little exhausted at some of the discourse, that capital D word we all don't like there, around some of the tough questions, but that doesn't mean I don't want Star Wars to ask them. Everyone's open to answer the questions their own way. Everyone's open to have their own discussions online. I can choose to either not mute the words or not engage or do whatever you want to do with that. But the show itself, I thought at times, let's make you feel a little uncomfortable about who you thought was a hero or who you think's a bad guy. Are you a little more uncomfortable? Would you like to join them? Like, I think that's a great. I think Star Wars has done it in other places, but this one's done it in its own special way, and I like that about him.
Yeah, no, I think it's very, very true that I've been very affected by a rush to judgment, which I think can happen in the real world, certainly, and often in fandom, and feeling like the show was really trying to almost tempt us to rush to a judgment. And I think that I've seen some great nuanced conversation online, but I've also seen some like, it's the second episode and the Jedi are awful and they always have been, and then finally the show is proving it, and other people being mean about the witches and being like, well, what, they're awful, they're clearly they're like, and absolutely rushing to judgment in a way that kind of made me defensive and then made me want to like kind of take a deep breath. And then I also am really affected by the fact that I do think that Star Wars doesn't always have to be a morality tale. I don't think it always has to be didactic and teach a lesson, but that's what Lucas, according to all of his interviews, started with. And so we've got all these stories where we've got to live with them for a long time, and we very comfortably come to the answer of what's the lesson. And some of modern Star Wars storytelling has that. I think a lot of the storytelling that Favreau has done has really been this argument for, maybe your differences aren't that bad. Maybe you can talk through your differences and you can work together as a community. Book of Boba Fett is so totally. Boba Fett builds a coalition of different disenfranchised people on Tatooine to work together. And the morality of that, the morality lesson of that is crystal clear. And this show has been challenging because it's had all these complex ideas. We've only seen half truths about characters, and we're in the middle of it, and we don't know in that final episode what's it gonna say ultimately. There's some hints based on like the themes that they set forward, but we're in this point where like maybe it's not going to be as crystal clear as some Star Wars storytelling has been,
right?
And even if it is, we're not there yet. But so much of what we're seeing causes huge emotional reactions. So there's a desire to be like, yep. Yeah. And this last episode was challenging for me on many levels. It was hard. It was uncomfortable. It was human, and it was great storytelling because of that.
Yep. And I think the Chimere stuff was what made me uncomfortable in the way of just like, he made so much sense, and I get it, but I'm still like, no, don't follow him, both with Osha and people in my own life. Just like, no. He sounded good, but play that out and ask him tough questions. So I love that there. This super chat I want to get to here, Joseph, from a Smokey Vandross. What a username. After the show, I really want a Jedi Internal Affairs, either show or an actual Jedi Internal Affairs. I love that. I'm interested in exploring the inner workings of the Jedi Order at this time in that way. Like, I would take a nuts and bolts kind of Star Wars Jedi Order procedural of just like, what they're doing. And it's tricky. My old boss was LAPD Internal Affairs for a couple years before he retired. And it's a tough job. It's a tough gig. And you're face to face with the sometimes the worst of humanity, using certain looks, uniforms, and shields to do horrible things. And you got to face it down and ask yourself, what do you want to do with it? And where do you want to go as an agency? And I think that would be interesting to see the Jedi investigating Jedi about what's going on. I don't think, we're not going to get a comic. Maybe we'll get a comic series about it. I don't know.
If Yord had lived, he would have loved to be in charge of the JIA. The Jedi Internal.
Oh my God, that's too good. He and Tassi would be.
Maybe Tassi will start it in his honor, and it will be some tortured version of it. It's called the Yord somehow.
That's the Yord Horde. That's the new. Yeah. That's what she. And I shall call it the Yord Horde.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. And I mean, in some ways, it is the council, right? But if the council did appoint, like, a different, to be like, we think something weird's going on this planet. We think this Padawan's, having some relations.
Yeah, and Yord's a great example, Joseph, because it's just like, that's. everyone rolls their eyes when he comes into the break room. Everyone's like, Yord's here, like, and that is sometimes how that plays out, unfortunately.
Yeah,
great stuff. All right, what do you say? We got Ryan for our last call, and then we can get through these questions we got here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you and I can go turn on some air conditioning in our own studios here. Ryan, you're on unmute and join the conversation. You've been waiting patiently. Appreciate that. How are you doing? What's your favorite moment from the Acolyte?
I'm doing well, guys. It's great to be able to join you here. I just have to say, usually I live on the East Coast and I can't catch these things. I had to fly to San Diego today to be able to catch this. So I'm at a conference here in San Diego this week, and so I'll be missing your show, Ken. I guess you have one next week down here.
Yeah, next week. It's all right.
Yeah, so I'm a little bummed by that, but I'm glad I could join you all today.
It's okay. Just as long as you get yourself a California burrito down there, you'll be all right.
Yeah, I think I'll be great here. Yeah, it's awesome. So my favorite scene. Oh, there's so many. I love this show so much. It's I know it's got mixed reviews and everything, and that's fine. But I love it. And one of the things that I really love is sort of the parental lens that comes through. I am a parent to a rambunctious, almost 3-year-old. And so my favorite scene has to be it's like split between episode 3 and then this most recent episode with Osha and Mother Anastasia, when they're kind of like talking about what does Osha want. And, it starts in episode 3 and then we see sort of the tail end of it in episode 7. And then that leads into the coven discussing what to do. And Mother Anastasia comes, and says, I choose mother. And that scene that line just hit me. I'm not a mother, but I'm a parent. And what I felt in that scene and I forget the actor's name who is Mother Anastasia, her delivery of all that really connected to this sense of with a child. You're supposed to protect them, but they're also independent human beings and they're growing into their own independent human beings, and you have to allow room for that. And my 2.5-year-old is not contemplating becoming a Jedi. She plays with her creepy crocheted Grogu doll, and that's about all she cares about Star Wars and Jedi. But still, I felt in just her delivery that tension between protection and letting this independent being take that step towards becoming their own sort of self, separate from you. And I know Jennifer had some issues kind of with the real world developmental capability of someone that young making that decision. I totally understand that, but like bigger picture, like that tension to me really came through in that performance and the writing of that scene, and it's stuck with me, and I think about it a lot as my 2.5-year-old tries to assert her own sense of self and find that sense of self, while I try to keep her from doing something that will hurt herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Go for it, Ken.
No, well, it's funny. This is a great call, Ryan. I was trying to say, maybe I don't want to cheat and not give my answer for my favorite scene or moment. And Jackie's death worked in a way that like our earlier conversation, like that might be up there. I think some of the stuff that last week, but I went back to episode 3 and I absolutely have said it so many times. Jodie Turner-Smith in this role as Mother Anastasia, so good. But coming into the show, some of the stuff we had seen from her in the trailers, which was wonderful, but I had the, here we go. She's kind of the Jedi want power, I want power, we're going to fight for power. And there's some of that stuff going on with her in terms of just her conversations, the questions she's asking. But it all comes down to that scene with Osha, which was this heartbreaking but warm, supportive, understanding, challenging scene as a parent, which I don't understand. And what you're talking about too, Ryan, relates to you. But Jennifer's brought her perspective and her passion for children as a parent, and her, I think there's been a lot of passion from her about some of the stuff in this episode because of what it means to her in her own life, and now with her kids. And I think that's my favorite scene so far in the series, because it made me believe in Made me believe in Osha's choice, Mother Anastaea's choice in chapter 7 here to be like, I choose Mother. It all stems from that scene. And instead of just being this is a conversation about power and who gets to wield it, it is a conversation about destiny, choice, who you want to be, and who's stepping in front of that, and what do you do with it. It was just more real than I could ever imagine, and I love that scene. So thank you, Ryan, for that choice.
Yeah, I really agree. And I think one of the big themes of the show has been across the board, the relationship between parental figures and child figures. And sometimes those ages don't quite match up when we're talking about, master and apprentice with Jedi. But I think, Soul seems so loving. We meet him the first time with children. So much of this is about his relationship with Osha, losing Jackie, all that. So it puts such a spotlight on this scene. Where it would appear that these girls were created for the purpose on this almost like evolutionary, like, yes, we have all these feelings, but humans are created to keep creating more humans in the way that the Coven is so kind of focused on. There are continuation. We might be loving toward Osha and May, but there are continuation. So for Mother Anastaea to take it in this different way is so powerful. And I think sometimes, to be perfectly honest, I'm not a parent, and sometimes I get a little. I want to be sure that I'm respectful of people who have lived experience, and I realized that scene and that choice, ever since episode 3, was hitting me from my lived experience as a child, not as a parent, but as a child. That the most loving thing a parent can do is say, "I need to let you go because then I know you'll come back to me. If I try to keep you somewhere you don't want to be, you're not going to come back to me." And I think that part of that idea of that love and that the tension between destiny and choice of like, yeah, we all wanted Osha and May to do the ascension thing now, but if we let her follow her choice, maybe it'll all work out in the long run because I can't take this child's agency away. I choose Mother was really, really powerful to me.
I think it will stand out when the series wraps up. Ryan, thanks for the call. Enjoy sunny San Diego. It's a beautiful town. I don't know if you've been there before or not, but it's a great spot. Hit that gas lamp district and be safe, all right?
Will do. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. All right. We are almost out of here, Joseph, but we got some starred questions. You want to roll through them? I was looking at them. There's some deep questions.
Yeah, let's see if we can roll through them. Let's start at the top and see how fast we can go.
Let's do it.
We have 2 minutes when we claim they were going to this. All right. Andrew McNabb says, "Do we think there was something? There's anything Soul feeling a familiarity with Kamir? Could Kamir have previously been someone else, or did Soul watch The Good Place?"
I think that's the answer.
That's the answer. Go for it.
I just took it as in that moment of their first interaction when he was just a shopkeeper, an apothecary guy, that he overlooked him. I took it that, but then with Chimere and you've gotten in my head a little bit, Joseph, of him doing a long time ago. Like, oh, okay, did he walk the halls as a Jedi? He claims he's a Jedi. I know, but like, is it someone from Saul's past? I don't know, but I go with the simple, more direct answer.
Yeah, I think it is most likely referring to the shop, and the payoff was Yord being like, "Oh my God, we had him, but we trusted our eyes, not our feelings." I do think it's possible, like everybody was speculating, like maybe Chimere was there on Brendok, and maybe this last episode will be his Rashomon perspective of what happened. Maybe he was a child at the temple with, and Soul encountered him. I think that's a possibility, but I also think that line for me would be just fine if they're just talking about the shop.
Yeah, indeed. Another super chat went in. We got more questions, though, indeed.
Okay, do you want to jump to the super chat?
Yeah, I'll scroll down here. It's not much of a question. 8984M, not a deep question, but hope you use the super chat to get some Del Taco. My doctor says I should stop the Del Taco, but I'll try to find a way. Thank you, Brady.
Yeah. I choose Del Taco, you should say. Irby Lopez says, how would you apply Occam's razor to speculating on the end of the show? For me, I think this is a show that started on a plot basis about May wanting revenge on 4 Jedi. I think the most sort of straightforward is that Soul will have a reckoning emotionally and perhaps with his life is my most Occam's razor speculation. Ken?
Yep. The fewest assumptions, right? I looked it up. Don't worry. I looked it up. I want to make sure I got this right. I go towards that. I go towards the you talked about the 4 main kind of characters left. That this will be about May and Osha, and can they reunite, or does that end in destruction? Soul and his absolution, his what happens there, and I look at Chimere as going on in some dark way, and that's kind of where I just look at those four right now. There's bigger questions.
Yeah. All right, you good? Just continuing to plow forward here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Rich D says, why did Torben kill himself? I feel like he didn't really do much wrong. Not so wrong that it would lead someone to feel guilty enough to kill themselves. I feel like he did the last instigation that truly sent everything over the edge by jumping on that speeder to grab the girls because they were proof of emergence. If they had proof of emergence, he could go home. I think as he got older, matured, he became a Jedi Knight. I think he would have understood, like, I entirely gave in to fear. I was a bored, teen-coded guy. Yeah, I guess he might have been 28. Who knows? Padawans get old. And I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go home. They got in my head. I freaked out, and I pushed go on all of this. I think that's the guilt that he would have to face. Of I failed and gave in to my fear, and a bunch of people died because of it in his mind.
Yeah, and I think it's a tragedy. It's the ongoing tragedy because this that wasn't the outcome that that needed to happen, and you wish you could pull him out from that and have a conversation and give him some sort of peace and help him find forgiveness for himself. But clearly, he carried that with him, and it's dangerous, especially with the circumstances around Torben, to point any blame. But I definitely feel that he's been for 10 years or so concentrating on the fact that I was to blame. And he couldn't find a way out of it, unfortunately for me. And
it also might be a part of the lesson that, like with Jackie saying about it, it's not what you lose, it's about what you survive. And maybe he should not have cut off for 10 years. He should have found a way forward and dealt with what he did and taken some responsibility. So maybe that's part of the moral. We'll find out. You want to grab the next one, Ken?
We'll find out. PLD, just a thought, what if Chimera was also created by the witches, a failed experiment sort, for whatever reason, and he left because he felt their dissatisfaction. It might be how he knew so much. And I know there's been some clarity on some of the stuff, but I'm intrigued by it. I'm intrigued by him having something to do with it, but it just doesn't seem he'd be there. Well, again, unless they toss him down the well.
Yeah.
He's just down there with a soup waiting.
Yeah, I think if anything, I get a vibe of if he was involved in the Sith, maybe the Sith stole some of the witches' magic or perspective. But it does, with all of the history of the world of various cultures, needing and wanting a firstborn male. I don't think this happened, but it does kind of amuse me that the witches would do this magic spell at the eclipse and they got a boy and they're like, damn it. We don't need one boy. We need 2 girls.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for the super sticker, Phantom Otaku. Good stuff there. We got this one here. I do want to address it, Joseph, but it might be an episode later. April Fresh, great question. Thanks for being here, April. I'm really curious about why people think the twins' creation diminishes Anakin's. For me, his creation is only enhanced by the twins.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I don't think it's stepping on it in any way. I think it's taking efforts not to step on it.
Right.
Maybe it will be tied together canonically. It would certainly seem like, from what we know, that Plagueis was interested in trying to do this. So maybe Plagueis involved, or maybe some other Sith Masters involved. For me, I love it when a big, bold idea is introduced in the prequel era. That was a big, bold idea introduced, and then let's explore it from different perspectives. And there's nothing about it for me that's stepping on Anakin at all.
Yeah, agreed. I didn't even go that direction, but I know people did, and there's some, I think, bad faith views of it, and there's some things where someone hears it, or they see a clickbaity title, or they see an article from someone. I almost said the channel's name, but whatever. And that just did you hear that the show ruined Anakin? Did you hear that? Did you watch it? No. I haven't watched it yet. But I also have had some interactions with some good friends of mine who are Star Wars fans, or reasoned, level-headed people with great perspective, and they were like, I didn't like that. I thought it ruined Anakin, and we had a conversation about it, and it's all up to interpretation. But I think one of the things I said back then was like, hey, we don't have all the information. We don't even have all the understanding of Anakin's creation. We have some clues. We have some legends mixing with canon. We have some thoughts. We have a comic book panel that was completely misinterpreted and taken wrong. And the creators and Matt Martin and the Sword Group have said, oh, no, that's not what that panel meant, that Palpatine did it. And I think it's just one of those things. And then if you engage with it and talk about it, I think maybe some people can work past it. But I also have some pals who are just like, nope, F this show. They're stepping on my Star Wars. And at that point, I can't help you. I can't help you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a great, fun, interesting idea.
Yeah, and I think the story is yet to be completed. So we will find out even more. We gotta. Okay. Where do you want to go, Ken?
We can just keep rolling down here. We're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through with this. Dee, I'm just gonna leave it here. So some fans seem to hate the show. There's been nothing but love for it on my TikTok and Twitter. I favorited this one, Joseph, because I think, Dee, that's great to point out. I think I've been exhausted for the last year or two in some of the Star Wars discussions where you just beat down a little bit about, like I said, I stopped wearing Star Wars stuff in public. I've gotten rid of Star Wars shirts. Some of it's because I'm maybe eating too much Del Taco, but other times it's like I just don't want to engage anymore. But that's fear. That's fear leading me through it, because there's a lot of people who are just like, oh, love it. Oh, celebrating it. Oh, this is my favorite Star Wars. And it doesn't have to be your favorite Star Wars. It doesn't have to be your least favorite Star Wars. It's just Star Wars you can swim around with and enjoy. So, Dee, that's a good reminder that the love is out there, and that's a good thing to connect with.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm on Threads. I'm on almost everything and just repost the exact same things. It now takes like 3 times as long to tweet because I just have to paste everything. There have been a lot of really great discussions on Threads. 1 or 2 things that are really strident about this is what the show is saying, period, that I don't always agree with. But I've seen a lot of people just like, I'm approaching it from this perspective. I really like this. People celebrating Yord and Jackie. And I've seen a lot of positive things on Threads as well. So, hey, shout out to the discourse. Sometimes it isn't all bad. Thanks, Dee.
All right. Where you want to go now, sir? We're almost done.
Yeah, almost done. Well, this week, we got 2 that I think we can do fast because we have talked about them in the past. So we can do our edited version. Tommy Steinbrecker says, has the music choice for the end credit scene been discussed? I've chalked it down to appreciate the temp. Didn't sit right with me since it's inconsequential to the episode, but curious anyhow. I think for me, I love the actual song. I think it's a great song. I think the lyrics are great. And even if it wasn't tied to Star Wars, I'd be like, this is a banger. I'm going to listen to this when I'm having a hard time. But I'm glad it's there because I think Star Wars should try new things, and Acolyte has been in the spirit of trying new things. For myself, having a very modern pop song bumped me out of the fantasy Star Wars world a little bit. I would be interested to see them try that again with a kind of an in-world song that's got a little bit more of you can imagine that Vat weirdo from Solo, Lulilo Primarch was singing it, but I'm not up in arms about it. It was not quite for me, but I'm really glad they tried it.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it on the show last week. You brought it up first, and I was glad you did because I had kind of forgot about it, which is telling that one of my biggest gripes was something I almost forgot about in our show discussion. And I agree with your take on it, Tommy. Inconsequential episode. I think it adds to the overall story. Jennifer had a great idea of just like, what if it was after the 8th episode and would it work there? But the creators felt it worked here. They wanted to do it. All for new things. I'm all for an artist taking shots and taking chances. It didn't 100% land for me, but I have to own that I'm also hypocritical because I love when Game of Thrones did it. But though I did say then, I'll say now, that was in-story songs done by bands. So it was fun to kind of see it done that way. And I personally liked what they did with Willow, where it did jar people, but every episode ended because it was just like, this is silly fantasy. This is this movie from the late 80s that everyone kind of loves, and now we got a cover of a Metallica song. That's what we're doing here. And I thought it worked for that show. This one, it jarred me a little bit, but like I said, not a problem with it overall. On to Cincinnati with the next show. We'll see if they do it then.
Yeah. And I was happy that that Disney Plus didn't minimize the credits to advertise the next show because of the song, so I didn't have to fight to get it. Let me see the rest of the credits. All right, I think we're down to the last one. The Crawling Chaos. The Crawling Chaos has a longer thread that anybody in the chat can check out if they want, but this is the big picture. Who says, I must say I find it odd that Headland basically did a giant information dump this week. She even spoiled future stuff for a possible season 2 and confirmed to debunk things we are wondering about. We had a longer discussion if anybody's interested on, was it our most recent news show?
The news show, yeah.
Yeah, because she's been giving a lot of interviews between episodes and clarifying some stuff, hinting at some stuff, all that kind of stuff. And we had a long talk about it, so I think we can do the bullet point version if anybody wants to hear a longer version. I have no criticism of Leslie Hedlund. I think this is the job these days that I think for promotion, creators are being encouraged to give interviews because it keeps things in the conversation, keeps things going. So to me, it's not a criticism of Leslie Hedlund. In my perfect ideal world, creators would wait until something is over and maybe even wait a couple weeks, maybe a month after something is over, especially something that's designed to really encourage speculation so that we can all sit with it and think about it before we hear what the creators' thoughts and answers are, because I think it gives us more time to dream. And I feel if the creator comes in too quickly, then it becomes a little bit more of a discussion of there are right and wrong answers, and we watch the episode and then we wait a day and then we hear the sort of the right and wrong answers. And that's an opinion to me about the state of pop culture media and advertising. And again, because people are being so hard on her in the show, it's not a criticism of Leslie Hedlund. She's doing her job. This is expected of a lot of creators these days, but I would also prefer to. The interviews are great. I would listen to her talk about Star Wars all day. The Star Wars that she created or the Star Wars she didn't. The interviews are fabulous. But I wish that they would wait until the show is over for myself personally.
Yeah, look, we don't do a lot of guests anymore on the show. We've never done a lot of sit-down interviews. She'd be one of my dream guests for us to sit down as a show discussing just themes and what she put in and how she loves Star Wars. That's why I've been a fan of her. Once she arrived in the Star Wars scene. So yeah, I'm with you. It's not a hate the player, it's a hate the game kind of situation. It's just where we're at. And I read the interview. Kelly Knox had tweeted out like a quote from the interview that I was like, I'm going to read this because I really like what that was about, the Jedi, and I wanted to get a little bit more of that. And I felt there was some spoilers for the final episode, and some of it was just simply like, don't worry, we're gonna answer that. But I was like, okay, that now I know, and we can have that spoiler discussion another time. And like you said, we got longer answers out there on this. But so it's not even grumpiness. It's just like it's where we're at. I'm going to choose to engage with it, but sometimes we have to cover it, and it's a thin line for us to walk sometimes. You and I both had comments in our last YouTube video. We responded to someone's very fair and reasoned question about the dance we have to do as a long-running podcast in the Star Wars news world that sometimes doesn't like Star Wars news. It's the reality of it. But it was a good interview. Just the fact that it was the next morning. I was like, 2 weeks, give me a wait for that.
And the Crawling Chaos ads as well, as we've been talking. I don't mind Hedlund doing a weekly few questions. This made me feel like I can't even get to form my own idea.
Yes.
But what is what before she flat out tells us in an interview. And and I think even if we end up covering part of that article, there were one or two things that I haven't said on this broadcast that I don't think we'd cover on the news, because for me, they are a little bit like, that's more than I wanted to know about what might happen. And I think it's all subjective. Thank you, Crawling Chaos, for that great question and perspective. I think there's one super chat we might have missed.
I brought it. I just brought it in here. Yeah, you and I saw the same one. Yeah, Mandalorian Jedi Avenger. That is a journey. I love that. Look at that. I don't know if you got my super chat, but I was saying that I can't bring myself to Vernestra doing anything dark. Also, Ken, please read another book. And Joseph read another book. You've written several books too. I got to, I'm going to have to drink a lot more to write another book, but it's been a lot of fun. Why We Love Star Wars is still out there. You can answer your own questions on getting drunk to write books too, but I'm out for a little bit.
That's what it's a tactic many have used. I wrote a whole first draft of a book, and then I got too busy with filmmaking to finish it. So maybe someday. There's a not great first draft sitting on my computer of a weird fantasy novel. Anyway, to your super chat, apologies for missing it, Mandalorian Jedi Avenger. I also agree with Vernestra doing anything dark. I feel like it could be a fascinating story. I agree with some other people who've said if that happened, it's a long time between the High Republic books and the show, so there's a lot to happen. I'm much more interested in a character like Vernestra, she's been alive a long time and she's been through a lot. And the longer you live, the more you're aware of, like, I see ahead of time where this problem might go. And you have to balance having hope and optimism with being like, but that's a problem. I really think from my wisdom and experience that we got to handle this carefully, and that she's a great portrait of a character who's maybe getting a little wounded by the life experience she's had of looking ahead to the problems? Maybe not. Maybe she's being more optimistic or more aware than everybody about a larger problem. But I'm hoping that it isn't a Vernestra Sith story, because I think the other elements of it are more interesting to me.
Yeah, with you, and to put another point on it there too, like the idea of a Jedi in this time period going to the Sith or going to the dark side is actually interesting, but with Vernestra, it just doesn't sit well with me, doesn't sit right, doesn't feel right, especially if, as Leslie Headland's putting together the show, and it's like, what kind of veteran Jedi can I grab that maybe has a little more cynicism, or is just worn down by the system, but is also worried about what is happening, and has been able to see the transition and fears what the transition might end up being. That is a great choice. And I have trouble imagining her who again pitches this show without knowing or having full knowledge of the High Republic. Then the Lucasfilm says, "Oh, we got this thing," and her going, "Great," and then reading those books, loving those books, and going, "Ooh, look at this 16-year-old Wonderkin Jedi Knight. Let me turn her into a Sith." It just doesn't seem right to me. But who knows? Who knows? I'm open to it. But I think Vernestra's representing something else, like you said. A little bit more interesting questions with her on that.
Well, maybe the final episode will be 2 hours and 45 minutes, and we'll find out that Chimera is Plagueis. Vernestra is Tenebrous. It'll just be a big old mask rip-off reveal party for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it Saul says, "I would have gotten away with it. It wasn't for you darn kids."
8984M says, "I think Vern is just stressed from all the politics. LOL." Which would be a fun Star Wars game show that Jedi could play. Sith or just stressed today?
Just stressed today. There you go. All right, that is it. We've got through the questions. We got through the calls. This is always a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun.
Yeah, I haven't gone to the bathroom yet. It's been great.
You're a hero. Almost 3 hours on air. This feels like AM Talk Radio, like it used to be. We're out of here. We got our finale review coming. It will be normal time, but we will say this: Joseph is traveling abroad. He will be in another part of the world. So we are ready for hotel Wi-Fi in another country. But we're excited to bring that to you, and we can't get to it. Also, we will be appearing by you. I think possible Jennifer. She's got that school schedule, but you and me, Joseph, will be appearing on Alex and Molly, Star Wars Explains episode 8 finale breakdown episode that day as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to some travels that I'll share about, and be very excited to discuss this final episode of Acolyte. Also do want to shout out quickly that you can, since we have an audience full of people who like watching things on the internet, I'm doing a show for my birthday. My actual birthday is August 17th, but the night before I'm doing a birthday show Friday, August 16th, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's called Horror Years Old. It's going to be a fun comedy variety show. I'm going to be doing some comedy. Ken's going to be doing some comedy. We have a bunch of great guests on the show, and you can live stream it. So if you want to check that out, you can go to my website, josephscrimshot.com, and scroll down to Horror Years Old and get the link to the live stream tickets.
There you go. We've done it. I think we'll come back and talk some more Star Wars soon next week. But right now, it's Friday night. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching, hanging out. ForceCenter Live.
ForceCenter.